Mark of the Triad, Cyber Hunter Chronicles, Book 1. Written by D.B. Gooden. Narrated by Bruce Peters.
Chapter 1. Big Island, Hawaii, 2049. Lonn Peters woke up on a beach. Damn, have I been sleepwalking again? He thought. The sun was just peeking over the mountain behind him. Living on an island was great. Too bad I need to leave. Work as a bounty hunter for the local police had dried up. Also, living on the islands after the police had raided several golden Triad businesses and sent many men to prison was a bad idea. He almost had an offer of work in a big city on the east coast of the United States. Just one more interview to seal the deal, he thought. There was work in Honolulu, but the government was corrupt. Hawaii was a paradise. It had the best of all worlds. One of the best beaches, the big city of Honolulu, and outlying areas if you didn't like that. The only downside was the military presence. All of that changed when Governor Takaka took office in 2030. He convinced the Hawaiian natives that the U.S. government wanted to control the indigenous Hawaiians. The governor was a smart and shrewd man. He knew which buttons to push. It didn't take long before Hawaii seceded from the United States. Texas had done it a year before, and California officials were in the talks to do the same. Lonn snapped out of it. He often thought about what could have been, but now wasn't the time. Why did I sleepwalk again? He usually only did that when he was troubled. Lately, Lonn had suffered some unlucky breaks, but that's normal when you've lost your job. At least we still have the house. His wife, Sarah, had inherited a house on the north shore of the Big Island. Lonn enjoyed it because it was practically on the sand. Hell, their backyard was the beach. Tourists would often mistake their private property for the beach and lay out in the sand. The original fence was mostly gone now, eroded, and there wasn't much left. No wonder the tourists mistook the area for public beach. Lonn looked around the deserted beach as he walked to the house. There was an eerie stillness to the October air that he couldn't quite place. Sarah was in the kitchen making coffee. "There you are. Did you go for a walk?" Sarah asked. "Something like that," he replied. "Well, hurry up and get ready. You need to drop off Simon in an hour." "Can't you do it?" "The realtor is coming by with a client. I told you that last night." "Right. Are you all right?" "I will be once I get some coffee down me." About 45 minutes later, Lonn and Simon were cruising down the Mamalahoa Highway. "Dad, why do we have to move?" Simon asked. "Your mother got a job off the island. I have a job interview scheduled after I drop you off. We are going to the mainland." "I don't want to leave my friends." "You'll make new friends." "I don't want to leave either, buddy," Lonn thought as he stopped the car. "Your mother's going to pick you up at 3. "Okay," Simon said as he ran toward his friends. Lonn's phone chirped. He pulled it out while driving and was able to glance briefly at the job invite. He had applied for officer position at all of the police stations on each of the islands. The reply was the same. "Thank you for your application, but we're not hiring at this time." He had also applied for several jobs on the mainland. Sarah had accepted a teaching job in the city of Newport, a city facing the ocean about a 4-hour drive north of New York City. Lonn applied for several police jobs in the area, but so far he had struck out. However, that all changed when he looked at his phone. Lonn looked at the job offer that he'd just received. It seemed too good to be true. The message read, "Dear Mr. Peters, thank you for investing the time to interview with us. We have a position that we think you would be suited for. Please call us back at your earliest convenience. Best regards, Sue Stafford, Milford PD." Lonn called back straight away. A miserable-sounding woman answered the phone. "Milford City PD," the woman said. "Hello, my name is Lonn. Sue from your hiring department sent me a job offer via email." "Oh, you're the Hawaii guy." "Yes, I'm from Hawaii." "Mr. Peters, have you been to the mainland before?" "Yes, about 10 years ago." "What part did you visit?" "I have an uncle in Oregon," Lonn said.
Neutral territory. I was told to warn you, Milford City is not like anything else in the U.S.
I have experience with violence in Honolulu. I helped break up a big drug ring. I was also responsible for apprehending the leader of the Golden Triad.
Our gangs make the Triad look like kindergartners.
Where is Milford City?
Up the coast from a town called Newport.
Didn't Sarah take a job in Newport? Lonn thought.
Mr. Peters, are you interested in interviewing for the position?
Absolutely.
Captain Sandoval will be in touch.
Thank you. The woman hung up without so much as another word. Lonn's luck was changing after all. About an hour later, Captain Sandoval called back. Mr. Peters. You can call me Lonn. Lonn, like the grass. Spelled different, but pronounced the same. What manner of name is Lonn anyway? It's Gaelic. You from Ireland? No, it's a family name. I grew up in Honolulu. Oh, well, you know that Milford is a rough area now. I can handle myself in large cities. Milford used to be a medium-sized city, very nice and respectable. After Mr. Tague died, his heirs sold most of his holdings and interests around Milford for pennies on the dollar. Suddenly, Milford became an industrial giant on the East Coast. The jobs came, the city grew, and crime came with it. Sandoval paused for several seconds before continuing. We are so short-handed that we started looking for qualified candidates in other territories. That's where you come in. Do you still want the job? Lonn couldn't believe it. No one had ever offered a job to him on the spot before. Sure. I didn't expect you to actually offer me the job so soon. I took the liberty of checking up on you just before I called. I also contacted Sergeant Takasami, who spoke highly of you. Milford must be a real pit if they're that desperate for outside help, Lonn thought. When can you start? I need to coordinate with my wife, but how does a couple of weeks sound? We'd ask you to start sooner with all the trouble we have here, but I know you're moving in from the other end of the world, so that's fine. I will ensure that you have the proper travel documents authorizing your travel. See you in a couple of weeks, Lieutenant, Sandoval said as he hung up. Lieutenant? Did I hear that correctly? Lonn thought. The highest rank he had achieved was detective. Lieutenant was a big promotion. Also, traveling by air was a luxury these days, as most of the commercial airlines had gone out of business years ago. Not only was it the quickest form of transportation, but it was also the safest. Gone were the days when you could travel by car, train, or bus. Most of the U.S. mainland had devolved into a lawless hellscape. Shortly after his interview, Lonn called Sarah. She was thrilled about the news. Will the commute be a problem? Sarah asked. Milford looks close to Newport on a map, so it shouldn't be a problem, Lonn said. I worry about you getting burned out, that's all. Now all we have to do is sell this place, then we'll be set, Lonn said. Well, I may have some news later today. Really? That would be perfect, he thought. Lonn was skeptical, but the housing market in Hawaii had recently taken an upswing due to people wanting to escape the troubles on the mainland. It was difficult for mainlanders to even come to the islands because of the Ho'ololi'ia Territorial Act of 2024, which made it possible for Hawaii to secede from the United States. An exception existed for people born on, or married to people born on, any of the islands. Lonn didn't think this was enforced when it came to rich people, since they always seemed to be here. When do they want you to start? Sarah asked. A couple of weeks. That's tight. I negotiated a month. If you're gone early, it will be difficult. It will be okay, honey, I promise. Well, I hope so. I'm afraid that you'll be engrossed in your job again. I won't. Things will be different this time, you'll see, Lonn said. Lonn was happy for the first time since losing his job at the Hilo Police Department. Jobs were scarce on the islands, even for cops. Devin pulled his cruiser up to the curb at 5153 Ocean Avenue, a dilapidated brownstone. What a shithole, he thought. It was common for two officers to investigate a suspected drug lord, but times were tough, and there was no one else available. The building faced an inlet of long-abandoned harbor. At one time, many luxury boats had made their home here. The view was now obscured by a large rusted ship that had crashed into the Milford docks 19 years ago. Times were different now. The United States had sunk into financial ruin after the Great Trade War. That's what you get when you let an egocentric billionaire run the country, Devin muttered. Dispatch, I'm at 5153 Ocean Avenue. Any information for me? Code 10-0, proceed with caution. Devin got out and stepped away from the cruiser. He scanned the street and assessed the situation before approaching the brownstone. On his immediate left, a few bums huddled around what appeared to be a burning barbecue. He saw several young men milling about on the right. Pushers, Devin said in disgust. He approached the door and tried the knob. It wouldn't budge. He kicked in the door. With his weapon drawn, he entered a shadowy hallway. A young kid, maybe 4 years old, was sitting on the floor next to a man with a crazed look. The man grabbed the kid by the throat and pulled him close. Easy now. No one has to get hurt, Devin said. The man didn't let go of the kid's throat. The kid was clearly not getting air, but the man kept his grip firm. Let the kid go. Or what? He's innocent. Let's talk. The man tensed as Devin put his weapon down, but after a few seconds he seemed to relax a little. This man's description didn't match the suspect's. He was short, 5 feet 6 inches, medium build, and bald. The man that dispatch had described was over 6 feet, had facial scars and curly brown hair. I'm not here for you, Devin said. The man pushed the kid into a wall with enough force to knock him out, and then ran down the hallway. Devin followed the man down the hall. He didn't want to tip off the suspect he was here to arrest. Most of the apartments on the ground floor had their doors open. Devin glanced inside each as he passed. When he reached the end of the hall, a stairwell was visible. He proceeded with caution. Gray light shone through a broken window just outside the door leading from the stairwell. He saw the man running across a courtyard. He ignored him and climbed the stairs. The top floor was littered with trash and other debris, so Devin covered his nostrils. It was a dead smell. He heard nothing. He reached the end of the hallway and heard a faint crying sound. It was coming from a room at the very end of the hall. He crouched down as he approached the door. As soon as he did, he heard a loud bang, and part of the door shattered outward. Devin noticed shadows moving within the room. The bottom portion of the door was still intact. He reached for the handle and flung it open. Bang! Another roar of a weapon. It was not a conventional weapon, but a sonic blast. He heard the low hum of the weapon charging. Devin opened a pouch on the side of his armor and pulled out a small object. He squeezed it, and a high-pitched squealing noise emitted from the device. He tossed it into the room. Seconds later, he heard a bang. He could hear the screams and cries of a woman. Devin peeked around the corner. A woman, maybe late 30s, was screaming as she held a boy in her hands. Blood was visible in several places around the apartment. On the child's lap, a sonic blaster was resting in the kid's blood. Devin wasn't expecting this. He saw movement in another room. He gathered the sonic weapon and then proceeded into the next room. The sonic blaster was about the size of a sawed-off shotgun. It was too big to carry, so he ejected the battery and then set the weapon aside. Seconds later, Devin dodged 2 chains being thrown toward him at high speed. He ducked. One chain stuck in the wall just above him. The chain straightened. Someone was pulling it, trying to retract it. Devin reached up and pulled on the chain, hard. Ouch! A young voice said. He heard movement and gave chase. It was another kid. Come out from there, now, Devin said. A girl, around 13, came out from behind a dresser. Devin took out a pair of handcuffs and secured the girl to a leg of an antique desk. She screamed. Devin heard footsteps and checked the rest of the apartment. In an adjacent room, he saw a large man running through a hole in the wall. He was massive, well over 6 feet tall and muscular. The suspect led Devin through the other ruined apartments. Devin stopped, pressed himself against a wall, and listened. After several seconds, he heard movement and was about to investigate when he felt a small prick, like an insect bite. He felt numb. Devin looked down and saw the girl, a blood-stained knife in her hand. How did she get loose? That wasn't the disturbing part. What did she do to me? He slumped over as the girl stared at him. Devin thought she was pretty. He looked at her unkempt, dirty blonde hair. "Good girl, Selina. Come to Papa," the large man said. Devin felt lifeless as he was dragged away. Devin was stiff as he awakened. Where am I? He felt a gust of cold wind brush up against his face. He could smell salt water, the harbor. He had to be close. The room seemed to move, or was it just in his head? He saw movement from the corner of his eye, and his vision blurred. Darkness. After a while, he had no idea how long, Devin heard distant voices. "Hey there, Fast Maggie. We've got ourselves a prize," Martin said.
"Johnny will like this. I need to get into his good graces after that push," Maggie said.
"Nah, bitch, he's mine," Martin demanded. Maggie caressed a soft hand over Martin's scarred face. He groaned in delight. "All right, we will share, but after you lie down with me." Maggie snuggled close to Martin. Devin blacked out again. Devin was shaken awake. When he opened his eyes, he saw a man with a scar running from his left temple to the base of his chin in a crazy zigzag pattern. Devin noticed the man had short, curly brown hair. This is my suspect, he thought. The man was pale, like he had never been in the sun. Devin didn't doubt that was the case, due to the perpetual pollution levels over the past 20 years. Milford had turned into a real sewer. The man waved a gun around wildly. He kept playing with the hammer and trigger, which put Devin on edge. The man had a wild-eyed look. Devin was trying to figure out where he was. Judging from the rocking motion of the room, he thought he might be on a boat.
"Who are you here for?" said the man.
"No one in particular. I'm just patrolling," Devin said. The man seemed to become unglued. He fidgeted about like a hamster that had gotten its cage shaken one too many times.
"You're a liar. Maggie said you shot her boys."
The man was twitching uncontrollably as he spoke.
"What do you say to that?"
Devin said nothing. He didn't want to antagonize the man any further. The man hit him in the head. Devin curled up, trying to protect himself. He heard the man cackle.
"Just kidding, bro."
A kid, approximately 10 years old, appeared.
"Hey, Johnny, Selina wants her bounty for this one," the kid said. "Yes, Jonas, tell your little sister that Papa will deliver in due time," Johnny said. "Don't be late, or Papa will be real mad," Jonas said as he left.
Johnny didn't respond. Devin was trying to get a read on his situation. Where was he? He tried opening his eyes, but one was swollen shut. His face felt warm, and it pulsed like someone had used it to tenderize a steak.
"On your feet, pilgrim," Johnny said.
Johnny grabbed Devin violently by his collar, dragged him across the room, and sat him in a chair. Devin tried to resist, but his body wouldn't respond to his commands. Was I drugged? Devin thought.
"You may be wondering why you can't move, let alone fight back," Johnny said menacingly.
Devin tried to speak, but only gibberish emanated from him.
"I gave you some Vice. In case you don't know, it causes temporary paralysis, so you won't be able to move, talk, or take a dump unless I allow it. When the time is right, I will get some answers out of you, but for now, just enjoy yourself."
Devin's vision was starting to return. He scanned the room. Wallpaper, peeling in several places, especially around the windows, flapped in the breeze, the source of which Devin couldn't seem to place since the windows appeared to be closed. The floor, made up of several wood planks, was broken and cracked in several places. A dirty couch was on the other side of the room. Johnny was sitting on it, staring at Devin, just like a predator would examine its next meal. The door to the small room was flung open. A large man entered with a petite, skinny girl with no shoes. Devin recognized them from the tenement. It was the girl who had stabbed and drugged him.
"Welcome, Big Papa. I see you brought Selina with you," Johnny said.
"Nuff talk. Where's money? Big Papa said. Big Papa narrowed the distance between himself and Johnny. Johnny reflexively held an arm out.
Easy, big guy. I was about to send a courier over with your bounty.
Big Papa wasn't deterred. He towered over Johnny. Big Papa must be at least 7 feet tall, Devin thought. Selena walked around Johnny as if looking for weak spots. She thrust a hand out, inches from his face.
Pay,
Selena said.
Coin, Founders, or Vice?
Johnny asked. Devin thought it was interesting that Johnny had offered several payment options. Coin was making a comeback in the United States because it was based on precious metals such as gold, silver, and platinum. In recent years, various factions across the country melted down the existing currencies and reforged them in their creator's image. It was not uncommon to see coins featuring the leaders of such factions. The Tri-City area of Milford, Newport, and Haven was ruled by Maxwell Dunbarton, and he was no exception. Dunbarton had gold, silver, platinum, and even copper coins made with his face on them. Founders, former U.S. paper-based dollars, were also accepted in the region, and were probably the most widely accepted. Vice was more recent. It was a new drug manufactured by such scum as Johnny.
Founders, you throw in some Vice too, Selena said.
Johnny opened his mouth as if to protest, noticed Big Papa brooding, and then thought better of it.
Okay, sure.
Johnny poked at a cushion to reveal a secret compartment. He took out a wad of cash and a syringe-looking object with some tubing wrapped around it.
Here, your finder's fee and Vice. We good?
Selena examined the bundle and then gave Big Papa a nod. Big Papa scooped up Selena with a sweeping motion and left, ducking as he went through the door. Devin couldn't be sure, but he thought he saw Johnny sweating. Whoever Big Papa was, Johnny was clearly afraid of him. Johnny reached behind the couch for a folding chair and positioned it in front of Devin.
Now, let's get down to business,
Johnny said.
Chapter 2. Lonn was unimpressed with Milford. It reminded him of a carcass that hadn't realized it was dead. His smart glasses reminded him that the air quality was in the bad range. In Hawaii, the air quality was always good. Lonn already missed Sarah, who was taking care of last-minute business from the home sale. Since Lonn had started his job first, he wanted to get familiar with the area. He needed to find a safe home for Sarah and Simon. He didn't want to worry about them when he was investigating criminals. Captain Sandoval promised Lonn that he would have some time to scout for a permanent place for his family to live. He also had some recommendations. With your lieutenant's salary, you can easily afford a place in Milford Heights, a working-class neighborhood. A lot of cops live there, Sandoval said. How far is that from downtown Newport? Sandoval thought for a moment before answering. It's a long drive. Probably at least 2 to 3 hours with traffic. That's not going to work. Sarah took a position in downtown Newport, and there's Simon to consider. What's in between Milford and Newport? Well, that's Haven. I don't think you want to live there. I will take a drive on my day off and look around. You picked a hell of a day to start, Sandoval said. Why's that? For starters, we have an officer missing. Missing? A detective named Devin. I normally wouldn't worry about it, but it's been a week. No reports, check-ins, or any communication. What about his cruiser? It was tracked to Milford Harbor. We sent another officer to investigate, but it wasn't there. Stolen? We have a minimum of 5 trackers on each cruiser, so if it was stolen, we would know its location. It was most likely stripped for parts, Sandoval said. If there were trackers, couldn't you just track those parts? We can, but the choppers, the roaming crews that search for these abandoned vehicles, know what to look for. I'm sending you to look for sign of Devin and report back. Because you are new to the area, I've sent a detailed map to your smart glasses. Come on, let me introduce you to your new ride. Lonn followed Captain Sandoval to the garage, where they were greeted by a mechanic. Hey, Captain, the mechanic said. Hey, Webby, meet our newest recruit, Lonn Peters. The mechanic held out a hand. I'm Aaron Webb. I'm sure we'll be working closely together. Shaking hands with Webb was like shaking hands with a statue. "See anything you like?" Webb said. Lonn pointed at a motorcycle. He liked it because it had a low profile, and if Milford was half as dangerous as Captain Sandoval was saying, then he needed something quick and maneuverable. He needed to be able to get out of any situation fast. Webb gave the captain a questioning look. Sandoval nodded his approval. "None of the other cops in the precinct have ever asked about the rocket," Webb said. "Rocket?" "I call her the Rocket because she can go at a maximum speed of 200 miles per hour. I've made some of my own improvements. This beauty was fashioned from some of the fastest cycles of the early 2000s. I kept the looks, lowered the profile, and changed out all the machinery. No more chain drives," he said proudly. Webb started the rocket. It made a deafening sound as the engine roared. "Not very subtle," Sandoval said. "Nope, and I don't want it to be. Need to fit the part," Lonn said. "Wait, do you even know how to handle this rocket?" Lonn gave Sandoval a patient smile. "My work in Honolulu involved infiltrating the Golden Triad. They were famous for exclusively riding motorcycles. My undercover work would not have been successful if I wasn't an expert at riding these things," Lonn said. "Can I take her for a spin?" "Sure, she's all yours. I'll track your movements remotely. I'll be checking for any performance problems that you may encounter." "You will disable the tracking when I'm out in the field." "Tracking is for your own protection, Lieutenant," Captain Sandoval said. "No offense, but your tracking modules probably got Devon captured, or at least found out," Lonn said. "How do you figure?" "Many gangs have radio frequency devices, often sold on the black market, that can detect certain police frequencies produced by these tracking chips," Lonn said. "True, but it's best to keep the trackers on the vehicle in case of trouble," Sandoval said. Lonn abruptly peeled out of the police slot, and before long he was going 80 miles per hour down Ocean Avenue. He tested the turning radius by making a sharp right into a darkened alleyway. As he neared the end of the alley, he braked hard, narrowly missing some bums who were huddled near a group of trash cans. "This cycle is a rocket, and more," Lonn thought. "You finished with your joyride?" Lonn recognized Webb's gruff voice. According to the heads-up display, he was over 10 miles away from the precinct. 10-4, be back in 5 or less, Lonn said. Lonn turned the cycle in the direction of the precinct. When he entered the bypass, an overhead road that ran parallel to one of the busiest roads in Milford, he kicked it into high gear. 3 minutes later, Lonn pulled the cycle into the maintenance lot. "What the hell do you think you were doing?" Captain Sandoval asked. "Just testing out my new ride," Lonn said, grinning. "Dispatch got no fewer than 4 calls due to your joyride. You really need to be more careful. Where did you learn how to ride like that anyway?" "When you run with the Triad, you need to prove your mettle. The Golden Triad only rode the fastest cycles, and the drivers needed to be equally fast." "You're keeping the trackers. That's final." Captain Sandoval walked away. "Don't mind him. He isn't used to having talent like yours," Webb said. "Is there anything else I need to know about the gangs of Milford?" "It might be good for you to get more information about Thieves' Island." It might be because I'm new, but I don't see a Thieves' Island on the map," Lonn said. "It's a small island, about 5 miles off the coast. The real name is Fisherman's Point. It was a commercial fisherman's hangout. Local fishermen would gather and have lunch while their boats were maintained, or while waiting in the final tally for their catches. The good cops, the ones not on Johnny Vice's payroll, refer to it as Thieves' Island because it's a haven for criminals," Webb said. Lonn gave Webb a thoughtful look. "I see. How does the island stay off the radar?" "Rookie cops and uncorrupted veterans of the force often ask about it during briefings, and occasionally there are raids on the island. Little to no evidence is actually ever gathered, because someone usually tips off Johnny Vice, the man you are investigating," Webb said. Webb gave Lonn a pained look. "What?" Lonn asked. "It's probably nothing, but there's something else you should know." "I don't like the sound of this," Lonn thought. "It's also rumored that Johnny Vice is building a robot army, and Thieves' Island is the staging site," Webb said. That's crazy. I've never heard of robot guards or soldiers. The robots that I've seen are used to create coffee, mixed drinks, or cleaning, Lonn said. Yeah, I know how it sounds, but it might be worth looking into. Well, then I have my work cut out for me. Good luck, my friend, Webb said. Lonn nodded his thanks before rolling into the night. After getting acquainted with his new cycle, Lonn decided that his outfit needed a new look. The department didn't have anything that would work for his undercover needs. Lonn flipped through Devon's personnel file that Sandoval had provided. Apparently, Sandoval didn't bother to sanitize the document. There was too much personal information for Lonn's liking. Lonn called Webb. Hey, your cycle is sweet. Where might I find some threads that will match the local attire of these gangs? You should find Mama Kitchen. She's known as Mama Voodoo in that neighborhood, Webb said. Okay, where can I find this Mama Voodoo? I've uploaded the coordinates to your visor. Anything I should know about this voodoo lady? She will know that you are new. To succeed, you'll need a convincing story, but that should be easy for you, Webb chuckled. Lonn started formulating a plan. About 20 minutes later, he pulled up several blocks down from Mama Voodoo's residence. The place wasn't far from where Devon had been reported missing. Lonn surveyed the area. Numerous figures were clustered in front of dilapidated tenements. As soon as Lonn got up, several guys surrounded him.
Well, you look out of place,
one said. Lonn followed the voice. It belonged to a man of medium build, with long black hair and a pale complexion. He wasn't very tall. Lonn estimated 5 feet 6 inches. He thought the guy looked like a weasel. 2 other men, taller, wider, and meaner looking, flanked Lonn so that he couldn't escape easily. Whoa, gents, I'm here to see a fine lady, Lonn said.
Well, I think you are in the wrong part of town. There's no ladies here, Pale Weasel said.
The 2 other men squeezed close, as if they were going to huddle. Then Pale Weasel noticed Lonn's cycle.
Man, oh man, what a fine ride you have. May I?
Lonn nodded. Pale Weasel mounted the cycle and tried to straighten the bike, but it was too much for him. He almost dropped it. The other burly men laughed.
Shut it, Jerry,
Pale Weasel cried. Can you boys tell me where I can find Mama Voodoo? Lonn said. Pale Weasel's expression changed from jovial to something darker. Lonn couldn't quite read him. Who's asking? The burly man known as Jerry asked. My name is Robbie Cannon. I recently relocated from Triad territory, Lonn said.
You from the island?
Pale Weasel asked. Yeah, I ran old school smack and glam shops for Chen, the master himself. Pale Weasel looked impressed. The other 2 men didn't show any emotion.
What do you want with Mama Voodoo?
I need new threads, the kind that only special people can make. The lead-proof kind, an energy-absorbent type, Lonn said. Pale Weasel smiled. It wasn't a pleasant sight. Several teeth were missing and several more were blackened. It looked like something had died in his mouth.
Follow me.
Lonn followed Pale Weasel down a narrow alley. Pale Weasel opened a door that seemed to lead into a dark room. Lonn had a bad feeling about this, but he played along.
After you,
Pale Weasel insisted. When Lonn entered, the small hairs on the back of his neck straightened as his nostrils took in an offending odor. It was like a combination of something dead and cheese nachos. Then someone switched on a light. Lonn took in the scene before him. They were in a small room made of concrete, and a set of stairs connected to another place. Lonn shivered, feeling a slight, chilly breeze. A fan? Lonn thought. Pale Weasel and his crew entered the room after Lonn.
Follow me.
Lonn walked behind him through a narrow passageway that descended into darkness. Pale Weasel produced a flashlight. If this is a trap, I'll be ready for it, Lonn thought. The men abruptly stopped. Pale Weasel pointed at a large crack in a nearby wall. Enter there. Lonn examined the crack. It wasn't large enough to fit his left leg in, let alone his entire body. You want me to fit through there?
No. I wanted to see if you were an imposter.
Pale Weasel said as he squeezed the trigger to his sonic blaster. The weapon, which was effective at killing almost anything in its path, had one problem. It made a high-pitched squealing sound before it emitted its payload. Lonn used that split second to recover, and then he was on top of Pale Weasel, punching him in the throat. Pale Weasel gasped. The other 2 men were on top of Lonn in seconds, each hitting either side of him. Lonn grunted as he endured the pain. The sensation reminded him of the Golden Triad initiation trials. He maneuvered slightly left, adjusting his weight to his right hand, which came in contact with the head of one of the burly brutes. The brute went to his knees in pain. Lonn applied pressure to an area of his neck. The man dropped and started convulsing. Jerry gave Lonn a startled look. It gave Lonn just enough time to send his left hand into the man's neck. Jerry responded by grasping at his own throat. Lonn grasped Jerry's head and applied additional pressure to the neck until he was unconscious. Lonn touched the convulsing brute on the neck, and he stopped convulsing. He could hear him groan in pain. Lonn grabbed the convulsing brute by the collar. "On your feet. It's time to talk," Lonn said. Lonn took a couple of zip ties that he had stashed in his boots and secured the brute to a nearby pipe. He did the same to Jerry and Weasel. "I don't think I got your name," Lonn barked at the brute. "Jones." "All right, Jones. Talk, and I won't make this unpleasant for you. I can apply additional pain techniques if you wish. I learned a lot from the Golden Triad," Lonn said, smiling. Jones gave Lonn a murderous look, spitting in his direction but saying nothing. Lonn untied the man's shoes. "Okay, let's do this the hard way," Lonn said. Lonn took off one of the man's shoes. He took out a lighter and proceeded to burn Jones's feet. His nostrils recoiled when he smelled the burning flesh. Jones screamed, and Lonn reached for the man's other foot. Jones kicked it away. "Ah, you don't want me to break it?" Lonn asked. Lonn looked around for a suitable instrument of punishment and noticed a piece of metal protruding out of a crumbling wall. He yanked on it hard enough to take part of the wall with him. Lonn smacked the metal against the knee that was supporting Jones's bad foot. He tried to endure the pain, but ended up crying out instead. "You bastard!" Jones tried to say. Lonn hit the man over the head with the metal piece. He noticed blood on the metal, and then dropped it. Lonn took in a jagged, sharp breath. "This situation's getting out of control," Lonn thought. He took in a couple of slow, deep breaths. The brute took advantage of the reprieve to try and recover from Lonn's beating. After a minute or so, Lonn felt much better. His doctor had told him that sudden anxiety could spring up at any time. The doctor had also explained that it was a form of post-traumatic stress disorder caused by his time with the Golden Triad. As soon as Lonn caught his breath, he grabbed the brute's other shoe. "Stop," the brute said. "Are you ready to talk?" Jones nodded. "How do I arrange a meeting with Mama Voodoo?" Lonn asked. "You don't. Mama Voodoo chooses to meet with you, or not." Feedback from a nearby speaker emitted, and Lonn thought he heard clapping.
"I haven't seen a fight like that in a good long while," a voice said.
Lonn couldn't tell if it was male or female.
"I will allow you to enter, Hunter Man."
The wall with the crack began to open. Green light shone into the room. It was almost too bright to see anything else. The light abruptly stopped, and a figure appeared, dressed in a black trench coat, helmet, and some sort of mask. Smoke billowed in. The figure shot each brute with a tranquilizer gun. Lonn could barely register the shots. The figure said nothing, picked up Pale Weasel, and proceeded to go back into the opening in the wall. Lonn followed. For a long time, Lonn couldn't make out anything. He saw shapes of figures in the hallway. His eyes felt as if they were on fire. Tear gas, Lonn thought. The smoke evaporated, and they were at the end of a long hallway. There were open doors on both sides. The masked figure motioned Lonn to follow as they opened the door at the end. It led down a flight of stairs and through another hallway. Eventually it ended at another door, leading up another flight of stairs and into a darkened room. "Wait," the figure demanded. After what seemed like an eternity, a woman entered the room. In the dim light, Lonn could barely make out her shape. She lit a candle, which illuminated the immediate area. She's beautiful, he thought. Her dark skin glistened in the candlelight. Hello, sugar, the woman said. Lonn couldn't believe his eyes. The woman was in her late 20s, perhaps a few years younger than Lonn. She was wearing a loose-fitting robe, and apparently not much else, since certain body parts were visible. What is her deal? Lonn thought. I'm Mama Voodoo. Pleased to make your acquaintance. What can I do you for? Lonn was momentarily speechless. He had expected someone else. I'm Robbie Cannon from the islands. The Golden Triad sends their best, Lonn said. He threw a large coin in her direction. Mama Voodoo caught it in midair and studied it. Oh, I've heard of you, Master Cannon. What brings you to my humble home? I've come to ask your assistance. I need more appropriate attire to visit Johnny Vice, Lonn said. Whatever beef you had with Johnny is none of my concern. I'm a neutral party here. I serve both sides. I understand. Mama Voodoo handed the coin back to Lonn. I'm in need of your services. Mama Voodoo nodded. I will help you in any way I can. Now, tell me what you need. I thank you, Lonn said as he bowed before Mama Voodoo. Lonn thought for a long moment. He wanted to take care and ask a question befitting his standing in the Golden Triad. Although he wasn't connected to them using this persona, he wanted to preserve it if at all possible. As you know, I represent the Golden Triad. I'm hunting an enemy of the Triad. I have reason to believe that he's hiding in the tenements near the abandoned ship. That area is controlled by Johnny Vice, Mama Voodoo said. She looked hesitant before speaking again. Look here. I don't want to start a war with Johnny. He's too well connected. I don't want you to go to war with such a cretin either. That would serve no purpose. But I need your help nonetheless, Lonn said confidentially. Mama Voodoo crept closer to Lonn, and in the blink of an eye she was behind him, her hands on his face. She inched even closer, lightly caressing his earlobe with her lips. Lonn was immediately aroused. Stay on task, she's testing you, Lonn reminded himself. Mama Voodoo rubbed against him even harder. She's definitely testing me, Lonn thought. Lonn turned around and kissed her fiercely. He could feel Mama Voodoo tremble. He stopped. Lonn told himself that he needed to remain focused. Perhaps we can play later, Lonn said in a teasing voice. Oh, I like you. Robbie, there's something about you that I trust. You shall have anything you require. Mama Voodoo winked as she teleported to the other side of the room. She touched a panel on the wall. A section opened. Overhead lights illuminated the darkened space. She gestured for Lonn to come check out her wares. Lonn obeyed. You will need something to fit in with Johnny Vice's gang. He keeps so many strays around the place. He has so many men, he can barely keep track. Your best chance is to dress the part, Mama Voodoo said. Lonn picked out an outfit. Mama Voodoo also provided a memory chip with the information about Johnny's known hiding places and accomplices. Lonn was about to leave when Mama Voodoo grabbed his arm with a surprisingly firm grip. You tell Chan that we square now. I will tell him. Mama Voodoo stared at him for several seconds longer, then nodded her understanding. Chapter 3. Lonn parked his cycle in an alleyway behind 5153 Ocean Avenue. He scanned the immediate area for hostiles. He thought he saw movement from one of the windows on the top floor and stared at it for a long moment before moving on.
The back view of the building was enveloped in shadows,
intensified by the dark clouds in the overcast sky. He saw light streaming out of a door. He'd almost overlooked it because it was below ground level. A basement apartment, he thought. Lonn entered, expecting to find an apartment. Instead, he found a dimly lit hallway with no windows or other doors. Just a hallway, which he followed. He heard the rattling of something banging on another object. A shutter? Can't be, there's no wind. It was difficult for Lonn to see in the fading light. He didn't want to unnecessarily attract attention by turning on a light. He needed to wait a few more minutes until it was dark enough to turn on the night mode of his visor. He made his way down the corridor until the hallway ended. There was no visible egress point from his current vantage point. He felt the wall for any kind of opening, a lever. There was nothing in the center, or on the right or left side. He was about to give up when he felt an indentation on one of the panels. It was loose. Further examination revealed wires running through the wall. He carefully slid the tile back and stepped away. Just as he took a step back, he heard a thud. He looked back and the panel was gone. A jumble of wires and circuitry remained. The wall moved. Then he heard a loud banging noise. He turned and saw a large man in leather armor. His arms were the size of Lonn's legs. The man grabbed his head and started squeezing. Lonn's vision blurred, and his head felt like it was in a vice. He hit the man as hard as he could. The man didn't budge. His fingers found their way into Lonn's eye sockets. "I'm not going out like this." He hit the man's arms as hard as he could, breaking his grip. Sharp pains exploded in Lonn's head. Lonn hit the man in the ribs as hard as he could, but it was like punching a slab of beef. The man grabbed him by the throat. Lonn was lifted from the floor, choking. Lonn kicked the man with both feet. Stunned, the man let him go. Lonn fell to the ground and then got up as quickly as he could, dodging additional blows. He ducked, narrowly missing the man's fist. He heard a loud bang as the man punched the wall. He turned to run, and a girl, about 13, stared at him through locks of dirty blonde hair. She was about 20 feet away. He charged, but before he could reach her, she blew through a straw. He felt a prick on his face. It felt numb within seconds. He chased the girl. Lonn felt like the hallway was stretching out into infinity before him. He couldn't move a muscle, but he was still conscious. He heard the heavy footfalls of the large man. "We got him, Papa. He got the bad man," the girl said. Lonn's perspective was turned upside down as he was slung over Big Papa's shoulders. Lonn woke up with a nasty headache. Who hit me? Then he remembered the girl and the big man. They work as a team, Lonn thought. He tried to wriggle his hands, but they were cuffed. There was some play in them, but not much. He looked around, trying to get an idea of where he was. He didn't want to make a lot of noise breaking loose, if there was a chance of recapture. Lonn looked around the room. He was cuffed to a pipe, which made sounds every time he moved his hands. He heard voices in the distance. The implants he used while on assignment with the Golden Triad could be useful. He just needed to enable them. The handcuffs made it impossible for Lonn to enable the hearing plants in both ears, but he figured he should be able to get to one of them. He just needed to get his hand close enough. Lonn closed his hands together, then he moved the fingers around to get an idea of where to apply pressure. He dislocated the thumb on his left hand. Familiar pain enveloped his left hand. Although he had experienced this before, he never got used to the pain. The lessons that Chen had taught him when he was just a boy flooded in. He wriggled his hand loose from the cuff and enabled the implant with 3 taps on a specific area just above each eyebrow. After several taps, he finally heard a loud click, followed by a soft female voice. "Left implant activated." Despite the throbbing in his left hand, Lonn concentrated on the voices. 2 people, a man and a woman. The woman's voice was too old to be the girl.
"Selena and Papa weren't sure what to do with this one. He isn't dressed like the other guy,"
the woman's voice said.
"Johnny will pay us the same."
"Damn it, Maggie. You know only verified police will get the full bounty. This guy is dressed like he's from another gang," the man said.
"Well, Johnny will want to see him just the same,"
Maggie said. Lonn heard footsteps. He quickly disabled the implant. There was no sense blasting his left ear out, as the implants were designed for long range only. His bosses in Honolulu had never wanted to pay for the premium model with no auto sound leveling. Lonn carefully positioned his hand back in the handcuff.
"He's awake,"
the man's voice said. Lonn looked up. A man and a woman in their mid-20s appeared. The woman had the shakes. Probably a user, Lonn thought. The man was more difficult to read. He didn't seem like a junkie. He was more composed and calculating. "Now, who are you, mate?" Lonn said nothing, still trying to read the situation. The man pulled up a chair and studied Lonn for a long time. Maggie followed Martin's lead but sat a respectable distance away.
"Martin, let's take him."
The man raised his hand to Maggie, and she stopped talking immediately. "So, you like hitting women, eh?" Lonn thought. Martin pulled something out of his front pants pocket. It was Lonn's wallet. He started rummaging through it. He pulled out Lonn's identification. "You're from the island territory, I see. A long way from home. Or is Milford hiring cops from other regions now? I know that Johnny is taking care of a lot of them." "My name is Robbie Cannon. I've relocated to avoid the heat, and I'm not talking about the weather," Lonn said. "Ah, you can speak. Why Milford? You would have to go through at least half a dozen checkpoints to even get this far. I'm surprised you didn't get busted by at least one of the commanders before reaching Milford," Martin said. I have to be careful here, Lonn thought. This guy's bullshit meter seemed to be overly sensitive. One wrong answer could place Lonn in some serious jeopardy. Martin stared at Lonn intently. I sailed on a freighter, earning my keep as I traveled. From there I laid low around the port of Angelino, on the western shore. I was careful because several rival gangs and police have a cooperative arrangement. I mostly kept to myself. "Wait, with that much heat on you, how did you get out?" "I was just getting to that," Lonn said, trying to sound annoyed. He remained in character. He was sure that Martin was buying it, because he seemed captivated. Probably hasn't been outside the Milford region. I met a man who had connections in the port. He was able to vouch for me and get me some work. I could have stayed there, but I had to leave because I saw someone I knew. "From the islands," Lonn said. Martin leaned closer. "He is buying it." If this person had seen me, he could have exposed me as a criminal. If that had happened, I'd be in real trouble, since criminals are not allowed to work in the ports, and I'm a wanted man. "Why are you wanted?" "I murdered several cops, and I didn't stop there." Lonnie paused to see how Martin was processing the story. "And?" "I not only killed the cops, but their entire families, even their dogs." Lonn noticed that Maggie leaned forward in her chair. The story seemed to have an effect on her, too. "Brutal. What gang did you work for in the islands?" "I was one of the top enforcers for the Golden Triad. Perhaps you've heard of him?" Martin's reaction gave Lonn the impression that he was hanging on his every word. "Pull up my right sleeve," Lonn said. Martin carefully rolled up Lonn's sleeve to expose a tattoo of a serpent wrapped around a triangle. It was not only colorful, but it also revealed the tattoo artist's skill, which was nothing like Martin had ever seen. "How did you get from the western port to here?" "I traveled with some marauders who were protecting some rich dude from getting killed. He was trying to get back to his mountain base in the neutral zone." "Where's that?" Martin asked with interest. "In eastern Oregon. There are some mountains there that will take your breath away."
"Well, this is all fascinating, but we need to get you to Johnny," Maggie said.
"Quiet, bitch!" Martin protested as he raised his hand. Maggie looked defiant, but said nothing. Several minutes later, Martin seemed to be satisfied because the questions stopped. To Lonn's surprise, Martin even let him out of the handcuffs.
What are you doing?" Maggie said.
"Robbie is not a cop. I have a good sense about him," Martin said. "I still have it," Lonn thought with satisfaction. "Follow me," Martin said. Martin led Lonn through various narrow passageways and up several flights of stairs. He opened the door to see a tall, skinny-looking man with an opened, buttoned-down shirt, revealing a hairless, scrawny chest. Across from the bony man was another man tied up. Lonn recognized him from the picture in his file. It was Devin. Johnny looked up at Martin, and then at Lonn.
"Who the hell is this?" Johnny asked.
"Rob Cannon. He's from the islands," Martin said.
"Islands? Which islands?"
Ho'ololi'ia territory, Lonn said.
Johnny gave Lonn a look of confusion. The former Hawaiian Islands.
Oh, those islands. You don't look like a native. Any fighting there?
Johnny asked. Johnny has no clue how the Honolulu territory works, Lonn thought. I was born about 10 years before immigration to the islands was halted. People born on the islands before Laho'ohui, or the annexation date of April 4, 2024, were allowed to stay. I was born in 2020, Lonn explained. Lonn glanced at Devon during this exchange. His eyes widened. He nodded in recognition, or maybe his head was bobbing because of all the beatings and lack of sleep. Lonn couldn't tell which. If he is a good cop, he'll keep his mouth shut, Lonn thought.
Why are you here? Johnny asked.
Lonn relayed the same story with enough believable differences that Martin wouldn't know that it wasn't real. When Lonn took on a persona, he went all in. In short, I'm looking for work. Do you have any? The question seemed to catch Johnny off guard.
I have plenty of muscle. What I need are runners, Johnny said.
Runners are below my pay grade, Lonn said. He wasn't planning for such a bold move, but he felt he had to play the part of Robbie Cannon. Johnny didn't speak for a long time. Lonn noticed his hand twitching. It looked like he had a nervous tic. Lonn didn't like the situation. It didn't feel right.
There is one thing you can do, and it's going to make you lots of money, Johnny said, giving Lonn a greedy look. Prepare the challenger and take him to the pits, Johnny said.
Martin cuffed Lonn. Sorry, buddy. This is all for our protection. Lonn noticed that Devon was being moved as well. Johnny took out a microphone. Lonn could hear Johnny's rant as he was rushed out of the room.
Send word out to all the bosses that blood will be spilled in the pits tonight,
Johnny yelled into the microphone. Lonn heard commotion in every direction. It was disorienting. It reminded him of some old videos he saw of Mardi Gras in New Orleans, or Carnival in Rio de Janeiro. He heard lots of cheers, drumming and chanting, but he couldn't make out what it was. Martin led him into a small room with several weapons. Martin took off the handcuffs, and Lonn punched him. He was about to hit him again when he felt electricity course through his body. He fell to his knees and saw Maggie, shocker in hand. "That's enough, dear," Martin said. Maggie looked annoyed. Is she enjoying herself? "Our friend here is going to be good. Isn't that right, Robbie, or whatever your name is?" Martin said. A few minutes later, Lonn started surveying the room. Each side had racks of weapons mounted to the walls and displayed on shelves. Several of the bladed weapons had dry blood on the blades. Lonn noticed the lack of conventional or sonic weapons. "Choose any weapon from the rack, but choose wisely, 'cause you can only pick one," Martin said. "Why are you doing this?" Lonn asked. "What, allowing you to pick a weapon?" Martin said sarcastically. "You need to prove yourself before Johnny will allow you to take a seat at his table. Plus, we all get to see how much of a badass you are." Lonn surveyed the weapons. Although he was trained in a variety of firearms, he preferred hand-to-hand combat the most. There was an intimacy about fighting with your hands or a good stick. He checked the weight of several of the knives. Some of them were at least a gram or two off. The fight could be lost if the weight of his weapon was even slightly wrong. He was about to give up and settle for an axe when he saw it, a stick made of bamboo. He picked it up to get a feel for it. It was almost perfect. It was about 5 feet long and several inches wide. The weight of this weapon felt just right. Lonn looked at Martin, who nodded his approval. "I thought you would choose that one." "It's a basic weapon, but it can be far more effective and wielded correctly," Lonn said. The chanting resumed, louder than ever now, and several sets of drums also started in the distance. It sounded tribal, like a rhythmic ceremony was being performed. "We need to leave now. The pit awaits," Martin said. He isn't picking up again, Sarah thought. It had been 2 days since she had spoken with Lonn. It was unlike him to go dark like this. Sarah called his boss. "Hello? Is this Captain Sandoval?" No, this is Milford Dispatch. Can I take a message?
My husband, Lonn, hasn't returned any of my calls in a couple of days. Sarah was cut off.
I'll have the captain call you back within the hour. Several hours later, Sarah received a call from the Milford Police Department, or at least that is what the caller identification said.
Captain Sandoval?
No, this is Officer Webb. I don't know where Sandoval is, but I heard your husband's name over the intercom a few times.
Do you know where he is?
I can't tell you much, but he is on assignment.
I'm getting on a flight to Newport tonight, and I wanted to speak with him. He promised to meet me and Simon at the airport.
Give me your flight information. Someone will be there to pick you up, Webb said.
Lonn was thrown into a small circular area, perhaps 40 feet in circumference. Wood paneling was spread evenly around the room, and a chain-link fence extended above the wood-paneled area. He could see the dirty faces of several people in the audience. Some of the people looked desperate and poor. Apparently these idiots wanted him to kill whoever came through that door. He was worried for Devon. He may not last nearly as long as Lonn due to his condition. The bamboo stick that Lonn had chosen made him feel better for whatever was going to be thrown into the cage with him.
Hey, chums, I have a treat for you tonight. I bring you the badass who single-handedly brought down the Golden Triad. His name is Robbie Cannon, but we now know him as the Hawaiian Copper. This guy is so badass that they kicked him out of the Ho'ololi'ia territory, formerly known as Hawaii.
Johnny bellowed into the microphone. How did my cover get blown? Lonn thought. The wood paneling started to lower, and another chain-link fence could be seen behind it. Apparently this was the VIP section, because the people that he saw looked heavily modified. Some had robotic arms, others had tubes or other visible augments like eye replacements. Lonn knew that many people were addicted to these enhancements, like users were to drugs. He thought he could see Selena in the audience, being propped up by Big Papa.
We have 3 challengers. Each one will test our hero's skills of might, determination, compassion, and willpower. The hero will have the opportunity to prove himself worthy. If our hero is worthy, he may go. If not, then he shall serve your one and only viceroy, me, Johnny said with a big smile. Johnny pointed at a door that Lonn hadn't seen earlier. It opened reluctantly. A man, perhaps a little taller than Lonn, crept out of the door. He was holding a green bottle with a dark liquid. He looked like a bum who had just been taken off the street. He had long, greasy hair and a long beard. He was favoring his right foot. This isn't going to be a fair fight, Lonn thought. Now, remember the rules, boys. The first person who dies loses. Now fight,
Johnny said. The door closed behind the bum. Lonn tested the bamboo stick in his hands. It felt good to have it. Perhaps I could only knock the bum out, and then attack whoever comes through the door to retrieve him, Lonn thought. The bum made the first move. He drank a considerable amount of whatever was in the bottle, and then pulled a large dagger out from one of his sleeves.
Ah! Death to the interloper!
The bum cried, so loud that it startled Lonn for a moment. The bum charged Lonn, screaming all the while. Lonn parried the bum's thrusts easily enough with his bamboo staff. This is too easy. As soon as Lonn had this thought, he fell to his knees. What is happening? The bum had closed in at record speed. He seemed to be able to teleport like Mama Voodoo. The bum kicked Lonn's legs out from under him, and then jumped on him, trying to poke him with his knife. Several scratches were starting to form on Lonn's arms, face, and neck. The bum hit Lonn in the neck with his bottle, and he was wielding both with ease. The bum actually tried to take a drink while fighting. The crowd was going wild. Kill! 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 They chanted rhythmically. Lonn wasn't sure whom they were cheering for, but he had to turn the situation around. He waited until the bum raised the knife for another strike, kicked him in the genitals, then kicked him away, rolled, and got up in a single motion. The crowd roared. They seemed to love it. The bum teleported just in front of Lonn, who was ready for him this time. He slammed the bamboo stick into the bum's nose. He could hear a crunch, even over the roar of the crowd. The bum put a hand over his bleeding nose. Lonn repositioned himself and struck again, hitting the bum on his left temple, and the bum went down. He wasn't moving, but Lonn could see that he was breathing. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" the crowd chanted. Lonn looked at the bum for a long time. The chants were getting louder. The bum started moving. Lonn struck the bum again and again. The bum was a bloody mess now, but he kept coming. This guy must be on something, Lonn thought. Lonn hit the bum again, with enough force to knock the bum on his back. Lonn stood above him. "Stay down," Lonn said. The bum wasn't moving. His bottle was spewing some red substance that looked like wine. It had a rancid smell that Lonn could smell from several feet away. What is in that bottle? Lonn thought.
Well, that was one hell of a game. Let's take a break while we get that poor man's carcass out of the way,
Johnny bellowed into the microphone. Lonn watched as two burly men dragged the bum's body away.
Now, let's make things more interesting. This next challenger is trained at hand-to-hand combat, served 2 tours in the Badlands, and is a decorated war vet and mercenary. Meet the undefeated cyber hunter Devin.
A figure, a little shorter than Lonn, appeared. He was wearing a mask and protective armor. He also had a sonic blaster. Why does he have a blaster? Lonn heard a low humming noise, which took a few seconds to register. It was a shield that would protect the spectators against the sonic blast. However, there was a potential side effect. The blast could ricochet off the shield and hit one of them. Devin was protected. Devin wasted no time. He fired the sonic blaster directly at Lonn. After some evasive maneuvers, Lonn was able to avoid the sonic blast. He had to avoid getting caught up in the blast range if he had any chance of survival. His bamboo stick was no match for the sonic blaster, but Devin was at a disadvantage. The sonic blaster took time, approximately 10 to 12 seconds, to recharge between shots. Lonn could get in several whacks with his bamboo stick before Devin would know what had hit him. Lonn stayed nimble on his feet. The next sonic blast would be either his opening for an attack or his sudden death. Devin fired the blaster again. The direct impact missed Lonn, but it came too close. Part of his shirt tore open, and blood started spreading across it. Lonn grimaced in pain, but he was able to stay on his feet. Devin started moving around the ring while his weapon recharged, not letting Lonn get out of his sights. Lonn was hurt and winded, his breath short and labored. It was difficult to stay on his feet, but he was able to manage. He couldn't get close enough to Devin to knock the blaster out of his hands or to brain him. Devin was more agile than the bum. Lonn was on the defensive. Time to level the playing field, he thought. He made a calculation that he had done 1,000 times before. As a kid, he would hunt wild boar, but he only trapped the boar when he anticipated its moves. He slowed his breathing until the moment was right, and then he threw the bamboo stick as if it was a javelin. It struck Devin on the wrist of his shooting hand. He dropped the blaster, and Lonn was on top of him seconds later, throwing several punches in the few openings of Devin's armor. Lonn was running on pure adrenaline, and he kept on hitting. "Why did you betray me?" Lonn shouted at Devin as he continued to punch and smack at him. Devin said nothing. Lonn took his helmet off, and it wasn't Devin. Not exactly. The man before him looked like Devin, but his face kept phasing in and out like a strobe light. "Damn tech," Lonn said.
Well, 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 the chameleon has revealed his true colors, Johnny said.
Using the bamboo stick as a crutch, Lonn stood before the imposter that was not Devin. The crowd went wild. Then the crowd uttered the familiar chant of "Kill, kill, kill." Lonn was tired of fighting. He had to formulate an escape plan, and fast. Chapter 4. Webb didn't have any leads on Lonn's whereabouts. His tracking module showed Lonn's vehicle behind the building where Devin went missing. There has to be a correlation, Webb thought. Captain Sandoval interrupted Webb's thoughts. "Where is Lonn?" "I've tracked his vehicle to an area less than 100 yards from where Devin's cruiser was last seen. He must have hidden it well,
since it's been over 48 hours and no signs of movement. Didn't we see the same pattern for Devon's cruiser? Sandoval asked. That pattern was different. I was able to pick up intermittent or ghost signals when Devon's cruiser got taken. There is no such interference with launch trackers. Well, is there any other way we can track him? Webb said nothing for a long time. Well, there is one way, but it's illegal without consent. What is that? Since every high-ranking officer has a biometric reporting vital signs to their assigned visor, it's possible to hack the signal to locate the individual, Webb said. Captain Sandoval gave Webb a skeptical look. Before you ask, yes, you also have this tracking ability, but to my knowledge, this capability hasn't been used. I certainly don't know how to. Well, I suggest you find someone who does. Lonn's wife has been contacting me nonstop all day, and I don't know what to tell her, Sandoval said. I have the name of the contractor who set up the system. I'll see if his contact information still works, Webb said. Good. We need to fix this mess, Sandoval said as he walked away. That didn't go very well, Webb thought. Webb picked up the phone and called Watson Security Services. A young woman answered the phone.
Watson Security Services, Andy speaking.
Hello, Andy. This is Officer Webb from the Milford PD. There was silence for a long moment. Hello, are you still there?
Oh, sorry. How can I help you?
Webb thought the girl answering the phone was nervous about the police calling, which was odd for a security company. Is Nigel Watson in? Webb asked.
Oh, Dad? Let me check, okay?
Webb waited for several minutes before Andy picked up the phone.
Hey, sorry to keep you waiting. Mr. Watson is out in the field right now. Can I take a message?
Please tell him to contact Webb at the Milford PD as soon as he gets this message. It is very urgent, Webb said, emphasizing the word urgent. Webb thought the girl seemed overly nervous to be new at answering the phones. Perhaps an investigation is in order, he thought. Lonn loomed over fake Devon. He wasn't moving, but Lonn could see that he was breathing. The door to the arena opened, and 3 burly men entered the arena. All of them sported body armor and had their sonic blasters drawn. Stand down, one of the men said. Lonn dropped the bamboo stick. One of the men helped fake Devon to his feet, another grabbed his stick, while the third kept the blaster pointed at Lonn's head. After several seconds, Lonn crouched down, put his hands on his head, and submitted to the men. Lonn's compliance earned him a kick in the ribs. Ah, what was that for? Lonn cried. For making me wait. Now shut up, worm, one of the guards said as he restrained Lonn. He was thrown into a small room with no windows except for a small square one, and the doorway was covered with wire mesh. Are you going to take these off? Lonn said, raising the cuffs. The guard said nothing as he left. Lonn surveyed the room. There was only one way in. There were cracks in several locations along the walls. The handcuffs were starting to pinch his hands. He thought about his family, about the fate of Devon, and what his new employers at the Milford PD would think of his carelessness. As he did before, Lonn dislocated the thumb on his left hand. He endured the pain as he wiggled his hand free of the cuff. With the help of his right hand, he put his thumb back to its proper positioning. The pain was even greater now. Lonn took another minute to formulate a plan. What if I could break through these crumbling walls? Certainly worth a try. Lonn examined a wall with the largest crack. Light was visible from the other side. Judging from the other rooms he saw on the way in, this area appeared to be some sort of detention area. With his right hand, Lonn started applying pressure on the cracks. Some of the areas were crumbling as he worked. He kept working at it until he could almost get his entire hand through. Hey, Lonn, is that you? Someone said from the other side of the wall. Who's there? It's me, Devon. Lonn peeked through the opening but could not see anyone. I'm not falling for that one again. Show yourself. A few seconds later, Lonn could see Devon. How do I know you're the real Devon? The other guy in the pit had a face changer. A what? Biotechnology with the ability of changing a person's face. Oh, right. I did hear some shouting, drums, and other commotion, but I wasn't sure what was going on until you spoke about it. I've been down here since we both were taken away, Devin said. Is this really Devin? Lonn had thoroughly reviewed Devin's file. He needed to verify. I need to ask some questions that only you could know the answer to. Is that okay? Yeah, I understand, Devin said. When you completed your detective exam, there was one area in particular that you scored the lowest, which almost caused you to miss the exam. What was it? After a very long pause, Devin answered. The questions that threw me off involved interviewing suspects. I believe it was during the interview planning stage. I chose forming a plan, Devin said. Right. I had a perfect score for that same exam. The correct answer was preparing psychologically for the interview, Lonn said. One more question. What was your rookie badge number? 55013, Devin said without hesitation. Correct. It's good to meet you, Lonn said. Lonn offered his right hand, and Devin shook it. Feels like a cop's handshake, Lonn thought. We need to work together if we have any chance of getting out of here. Do you see any cracks or anything that might indicate an egress point? Yes, I was working on widening a hold on the outside wall when I heard your scraping. I thought it was you when I saw the cuff attached to your wrist, Devin said. Work on that while I try to break through to your cell. Several hours later, Lonn was able to break into Devin's cell, which seemed to be in worse shape than Lonn's. Devin wore the same clothes as before. What's the guard's rotation? Lonn asked. Not sure what you mean, Devin said. Surely you know the frequency of the guard's schedules by now. I need you to think. I know they come by with food and water, but I'm not sure how often. Lonn estimated that 2 days had passed since his meeting with Johnny. Okay, how many times has someone brought you food? At least a couple of times, I think, Devin said, unsure. Sometime later, Devin's cell door opened. It was Martin and Maggie. There were other uniformed guards behind them. They both had trays of food in their hands. Lonn had moved to the other side of the door, out of sight of the guards. Martin entered the room and placed a tray of food on the floor. As he turned to leave, he saw Lonn, and his eyes widened. He quickly pointed in the direction of Lonn's cell, then left. Devin looked puzzled, but remained silent. Lonn wiggled through the hole in the wall. Lonn was only halfway through when he heard a voice. Oh, the door won't open. Must be stuck, Martin said on the other side of the door. He's covering for me. Why? Lonn thought. When the door finally opened, Maggie brought a tray of food and set it on the ground. It was a bowl of split pea soup and a chunk of bread. Maggie spit in the soup as she placed it on the floor. She looked at Lonn. The two briefly made eye contact. She gave him a wicked smile. She had such hatred for him. Is this Webb? Yes. To who am I speaking? Nigel Watson from WSS. We have a situation that requires your help and cooperation, Webb said. Sure. Anything for the police. You helped the department design some bio-implants to be clandestinely installed in high-ranking officers in the Milford PD. Nigel said nothing. Nigel, you there? I'm here. I was trying to remember if I worked on that contract. We get so much work. I had to outsource some of it. Wait, are you telling me your work for the Milford PD was outsourced? Maybe. I'm not sure. I need to check. Well, I suggest you find out quickly. I'll hold the line while you check. That doesn't work for me. I'll need to call you back, Nigel said. Call me back within the hour. Otherwise, I will pay you a visit. A man's life may depend on it. About 30 minutes later, Nigel called back. The work was outsourced to Alcom Lifestyle Services. They were certified with designing the neural interfaces for the implants, Nigel said. If they designed the interface, what did you do besides collect a payday? Nigel paused before speaking. I designed the interface circuits responsible for making the neural interface work and communicating with the outside world, Nigel said. Oh, so you made it possible for those chips to phone home.
Yes.
Well, you should have said that before, Webb said. Can he come down to the station now?
Sure, I have some other appointment.
Webb cut him off. I need you to cancel anything you have scheduled and come down now. Also, bring anything you need to track those implants. Before Nigel could protest, Webb hung up. Nigel arrived at the precinct about an hour later. He introduced himself to the watch commander on duty. A few minutes later, a large man introduced himself as Webb. Nigel was taller, but what Webb lacked in height he more than made up for in bulk. Nigel's hand hurt when he shook Webb's. One of Webb's hands is the size of a rump roast, Nigel thought. Nigel followed Webb into a back office built into a garage. Are you a mechanic? Nigel asked. By trade, I'm a mechanic, but I'm also a police officer. One of our own is missing. I'm sure you can appreciate the urgency of the situation, Webb said. Nigel nodded as he set up his laptop and AR glasses. Before we can start, I will need to know what we are looking for. I mean, which model of implant is being monitored, etc. Webb pulled out his notes on Lonn's personnel file from a folder on his desk. It's the Biotic 4001 model, Webb said. That model is almost obsolete, Nigel thought. Nigel loaded the signature modules for the 4000 series. Although precise GPS tracking information was unavailable with this model, Nigel could get a read on a subject's vital signs. What's the serial number for the subject that we are tracking? 3 Zeta Epsilon 4 Thomas Pi, Webb said. Nigel inputted the information. Unfortunately, I'm unable to get an exact reading of the subject's whereabouts because of this model's lack of global positioning technology. I'm only able to give you an approximate location, Nigel said. Nigel pulled up a map on his screen and fed more data from the chip into it. He triangulated the signal to a small island off Milford Harbor. You hacked the cell towers? Well, you said it was an emergency, Nigel said. This cop better not charge me for this minor infraction. I don't need another strike on my record, he thought. Webb gave Nigel a look of indifference. Nigel took that as a sign to continue. He's located on an island about half a mile off Milford Harbor. Thieves' Island, Webb said. Well, it says Fisherman's Point on the map. The unofficial name is Thieves' Island because everyone knows that criminals operate out of there. But nobody wants to do anything about it, including my captain. Oh, I see. Nigel couldn't think of anything else to say. Webb looked like he was lost in thought. Officer Webb, are we done here? You are. Thanks for coming out. No prob, Nigel said. Nigel packed up as fast as he could. He didn't want rump roast hands to find more free work for him to do. He couldn't afford any more free consultation work. Later, Webb, Nigel said. Webb waved a hand dismissively. Webb entered Captain Sandoval's office without knocking. Yes, of course I value our partner. Sandoval stopped talking. We need to talk, Webb said. Can't you see I'm on the phone? Wait outside, Webb. I thought finding the lieutenant was our #1 priority, Webb said. No, what I meant to say is that it is, and we will find him, but I have this call. Webb cut Sandoval off. I'll find him myself, Webb said as he left Sandoval's office. I wonder who Sandoval's talking to. The captain has been acting cagey since he found out about the tracker, Webb thought. He called Nigel. Are you still here? Yes, the debt clerk won't validate my parking, Nigel said. Never mind that. Come back to my office immediately. A short while later, Nigel was back in Webb's office. What do you need now? Can you get my parking validated? Nigel asked. Webb grabbed Nigel's parking ticket, affixed an all-day sticker, and then threw it back at him. How good are you at phone hacking? Well, theoretically, I know how. Can you or not? Webb barked. I can. Great. I need you to get me the phone logs of extension 1001. Nigel went to work, finding all the numbers that had dialed that extension directly from the outside, as well as inside the precinct. Wait, this is Captain Sandoval's extension. Is he your captain? Never mind that. Give me the logs, Webb said. Nigel did as he was told. You can leave now, and don't worry, you were never here. Okay, cool, Nigel said as he gingerly left Webb's office. Webb went to work, sorting through the numbers. About a third of them were registered to burner phones. A couple of numbers were to the district attorney's office. A few others he couldn't recognize. Webb put a trace on some of the unknown numbers, and one of them was registered to a number in the Ho'ololu'ia territory, and it wasn't Lonn's wife. Some more investigation revealed that the numbers were registered in Honolulu. He couldn't find any information on the number in the police database, so he decided to call from one of his burner phones. Ohana Cleaning and Draperies, a female voice said. Webb hung up. After some more digging, he was able to find some national information on the cleaning business, but he couldn't access it. He had a friend in the FBI who owed him a favor. Time to cash in that chip, Webb thought as he dialed. After several tries, he connected to Agent Bissell of the FBI. Hello, Aaron. It's been too long, Agent Bissell said. Indeed it has, Robert. I have a quick favor to ask. I didn't think this was a social call. What's on your mind? Do you know anything about possible front business called Ohana Cleaning Draperies? Sounds familiar, but I'll need to check. What's your timeline? As soon as you can get it to me. Webb was careful to give his burner number out. He didn't want a record of the FBI contacting him at the precinct, yet. Lonn's cell cast long shadows as the sun set. He wasn't sure why Martin hadn't reported Lonn's presence in Devon's cell, but he took that as a positive development. Sarah must be going out of her mind, he thought. Lonn activated his enhanced hearing implant, and he could hear Devon in the next cell. He added a filter to reduce that noise. He closed his eyes, concentrating. He heard a distant conversation between a man and a woman. Lonn tried amplifying it. Nothing. He tried again. The voices were closer now. He heard tidbits of conversation, but nothing that made any sense. Lonn turned off the implant. He had to think of a better way out of here. Tunneling's taking too long. We need the element of surprise. The next morning, Martin and Maggie brought Devon and Lonn some breakfast. Thankfully, Martin brought Lonn's breakfast. He didn't want to have to eat Maggie's spittle again. He started to eat the breakfast, which consisted of a hard breakfast burrito. As the door to his cell closed, he heard the latch, but not the lock. He waited for several minutes and then investigated. Although there wasn't a doorknob on his side of the door, he grabbed onto the metal mesh and pulled. The door opened slightly. He used his fingers to pry the door open just enough to take a look. He didn't see anything. After some implant-assisted listening, he was confident no one was outside the door. He would make his move when the time was right. He returned to his breakfast. When he was done, he noticed a piece of paper with writing just below the burrito, which read, Lonn, you need to get out of here. Johnny is planning something wicked for you. Martin. Lonn decided to move forward with his plan. Devon, you there? Nothing. Where is he? Lonn thought. He hadn't heard him being taken. He wondered if he was asleep. Lonn crawled into Devon's cell. He was gone. Move, Lonn thought. Lonn scurried back into his cell and tried the door. It was just as he had left it, shut but slightly ajar. He stepped into the hallway, careful to shut the door behind him. He was just about to investigate the rest of the hall when he heard a swooshing sound. Martin appeared just in front of him. He had a wristband in his hands. A gift from Mama Voodoo, Martin said as he placed it in Lonn's hand. Before Lonn could react, Martin teleported away. What is this? Lonn mumbled. The wristband was unlike anything he had seen. It was made of elastic nylon with an emerald protruding from one side. He decided that side went outward as he slipped it on. He moved his hand back and forth to try to teleport. Nothing happened. He finally tapped the emerald. He was thrown into the wall behind him with some force. He was dizzy. Must go the other way, he thought. Lonn repositioned the emerald to face the inside of his wrist. He tapped the jewel and was teleported at least 10 feet down the hall. He experimented a little more, then tapped the jewel again, holding it slightly longer, and went even farther down the hall. Now that he was adept at using the wristband, it was time to make his move. Lonn was able to travel around the cell block, or whatever these rooms were, a lot easier with Mama Voodoo's gift. He didn't see anyone on this level, so he decided to ascend. He inadvertently twisted the wristband, and his vision blurred. What the hell is this? Instinctively, he went to turn the hand back, when he noticed that he couldn't see his hand. He waved it in front of his face, and he could only see part of a shimmer. He carefully twisted the wristband again, and his vision returned to normal. Far out, Lonn said to no one in particular. After some rummaging around, he managed to find the closest thing to a weapon, a lead pipe, which had some rust on the outside, but the weight of it felt good in his hands. Lonn quietly made his way up the stairs. He needed a weapon if he had any chance of escaping, but so far he only came up short. Lonn had used his hands in the past, but he didn't think that was wise in this place. He was able to evade detection by keeping to the shadows, but he didn't know how many times he could use the wristband to disappear, and he didn't want to waste an attempt. He saw a couple of men in uniforms guarding a door. No one else was in sight. He watched their movements for a while. One of the guards stepped away, and he moved awkwardly, as if he was trying to avoid stepping on something. The second guard was open for an attack. He tapped on the emerald hard enough to land just in front of the guard. He phased about 2 feet short. Damn, Lonn thought. The guard took out his weapon with lightning speed. Lonn didn't even see him do it. It was a blur. Lonn twisted the wristband and disappeared. The guard turned his head wildly, looking for Lonn. Chapter 5. Webb looked out his office window. It was getting dark and starting to rain. Splotches of water formed on the glass. It had been several hours since he'd spoken with Agent Bissell. Webb was wondering if he should call him back when his burner phone rang. "I didn't think you would get back to me," Webb said. "Sorry, I got tied up with something. I found out some information about your cleaning business. You were correct. It is a front for the Golden Triad," Agent Bissell said. "Interesting. Do you know if there is any Golden Triad activity in the Milford area?" "I thought you would ask that question, so I did a little more digging. There is no known Golden Triad activity on the mainland." Nigel walked in the door of Milford Radio Repair, a shop in a rundown part of Milford, less than a mile from the location of Devon's and Lonn's disappearances. "Hey, Milo," Nigel said. Milo looked up from a pile of circuit boards.
"Nige, it's been a while. What brings you into the shop?"
"I have a lead on Johnny Vice," Nigel said. Milo flushed with sudden anger.
"I want that bastard dead. He took my family away," Milo trailed off.
Nigel knew better than to press the point, but he thought she'd say something. "How sure are you that Margaret is with Johnny?"
"I saw the bastard take her after he killed Sue," Milo spat.
"We need to move quickly, because the cops are also onto him."
"How do you know this?" Milo asked.
"It's a long story," Nigel said. Nigel relayed his experience with Officer Webb and the Milford Police. "I made the correlation after I discovered the lieutenant's tracker was beaconing from the Fisherman's Point. As soon as I left, I started my own investigation of sorts. Of course, it required me to borrow some information from the Milford Police. Don't worry, I was careful."
"I don't follow. How does this help us, and why do you need me?" Milo said.
"Because we don't have an army. We can't fight Johnny Vice conventionally, but we still have a huge advantage. Most of Johnny Vice's guards are robotic in nature and are not the most up-to-date kind either."
"How do you even know all of this?"
"Well, I did some recon work on the dark web." Milo gave Nigel a worried look.
"Nige, last time you accessed the dark web, it didn't end so well.
Don't remind me. Well, that was a long time ago.
Sorry, man. I didn't mean.
Nigel held out a hand to stop him. Let's focus on getting your baby girl back, and with any luck we can put that Johnny fellow into the ground where he belongs.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, I need to build you some sort of scanning device? Milo asked.
Not any device, but a robot vulnerability scanner. Don't worry, with our combined talents it will be easy enough. You build the circuits, and I'll program them, Nigel said.
It'll be like we were back in school.
Nigel smiled. Good to be working with you again, buddy. Whew, that was close, Lonn thought. Lonn was barely able to escape the guards. What's behind that door anyway? He retreated to the safety of the stairwell. The wristband felt like it was on fire, so Lonn turned it off. Got to remember to keep that off. He looked around the area for something else that he could use as a weapon, but was coming up short. He snuck another look down the hallway. There were 2 more guards, probably summoned because of the previous feeble attempt at stopping them. Lonn turned to go back down the stairs. Maggie was waiting for him. She had a wicked-looking smile, and her black hair was pulled back, revealing cybernetic implants that he hadn't noticed before. She also held a small black device in her left hand, the shocker. Lonn hated anything that involved electric shocks, especially when he was on the receiving end.
Hands where I can see 'em,
Maggie said. Lonn held his arms up. I don't want any trouble. Just take me back to my cell, and we can forget about all of this, he pleaded.
You're coming with me. Johnny wants to see ya.
Where's Martin? Maggie seemed surprised by the question.
He's away.
Maggie cautiously maneuvered her way around Lonn. He was almost a head taller than her, and a lot stronger. She held the shocker in one hand, while fumbling for the handcuffs with her other hand. She couldn't seem to apprehend him in a timely manner. Lonn swung around, faced Maggie, and the handcuffs were thrown to the ground. For a brief moment, their eyes met. She's frightened, Lonn thought. The shocker was still in her hand, and she pressed the button. Lonn tried to smack it out of her hands. His reflexes were fast, but he felt his arm go numb as electricity coursed through it. She still had the weapon, and was attempting to position it for another shot. Lonn didn't have time to think. He punched her with his good arm. He was right-handed, so the blow wasn't so powerful, but it had the desired effect. She fell down the stairs and then hit the landing below. I hate hitting women, but she deserved it, he thought. He clambered down the stairs to check on her. She wasn't moving. He tried to check her pulse, but she recoiled.
You bastard!
From a prone position, she jumped into midair and landed on both feet in one fluid motion. Lonn had never seen someone so athletic. Damn, her reflexes are good. She made a move toward the shocker. Lonn grabbed one of her arms, but she hit him repeatedly with the other. He grabbed both of her arms and restrained her. She spat at him and then bit into his arm with enough force to pierce the skin. He let her go, and she hissed like a feral cat. Lonn caught a glimpse of her teeth. They resembled fangs. She leaped toward the wall, pushed back, and then landed on Lonn's shoulders. Maggie started to tighten her legs around Lonn's neck. He stumbled, feeling lightheaded. He started losing consciousness. This is not happening again. Lonn slammed against the wall with Maggie still on his back. Her weight shifted long enough for Lonn to get some air, and he threw her off his back. She landed hard on the concrete.
Damn you!
She screamed. Lonn stumbled out of the stairwell, disoriented after the fight. Otherwise, he might have noticed the robot with the shocker. A jolt of energy surged through his arms. His shoulders stiffened. It felt like a combination of needles piercing his skin and someone hitting him with a hammer simultaneously. He fell to his knees. Another shock. This time his body responded by convulsing uncontrollably. He looked up. Johnny was there, looking down with a taunting grin. Before Lonn could respond, he was met with the business end of Johnny's foot. Sometime later, Lonn woke up from a restless slumber. He had lost all sense of time.
How are we doing today?
Johnny said cheerily. Lonn was disoriented as he scanned his surroundings. It felt like someone had used his neck to pull a wagon. He could see a large room that was nicely furnished. He was lying on the floor, his head propped up with some pillows.
You may be wondering where you are. You passed out, silly man,
Johnny said, smiling. That is a great question, Lonn thought. Where am I? Johnny took an exaggerated look into one of Lonn's eyes. Lonn tried to slap his hands away, but he had a hard time controlling his body. Drugged, Lonn slurred. Johnny laughed.
Yes, you are quite drugged, my friend. We wouldn't want you to get a hold of this again.
Johnny held up the wristband with the emerald in it.
Who is Sarah, anyway? Someone to tickle my fancy?
Johnny laughed. They will come for me, Lonn trailed off.
Your copper bodies, let 'em. You are not what you think you are,
Johnny said. Lonn dozed off. Sometime later, Lonn awoke in a very different place. Did I imagine that last encounter with Johnny? He's awake. Good, and the trial shall commence, an older man said. Lonn looked around the room. It was packed with people who resembled the spectators from the pit. The room oddly resembled a courtroom, but it was larger and smelled musty. Lonn could hear seagulls in the distance. Who in the hell are these people? Where am I? A uniformed man walked in. He walked stiffly, as if he was injured. He stopped just short of an old man, seated above the entire room. I suppose that is the judge, Lonn thought.
All rise. Presiding in this court is the Honorable Judge Melson,
the stiff man said. Everyone rose except Lonn. The stiff man shoved a stick in Lonn's chest.
Rise.
Lonn did as he was told.
Please be seated,
Melson said.
Does the accused have counsel appointed?
Melson said.
No, he wishes to represent himself,
the stiff man said. Who are they talking about? Me? Lonn thought. Wait, what is this? He protested.
Sit,
the stiff man yelled at Lonn.
You are accused of being a copper and traitor to our sovereign Archduke, Johnny Vyse of Milford,
Melson said. Archduke? Are they shitting me? Lonn thought.
Bring in the first witness,
Melson said. Despite her injuries, Maggie strode assuredly into the room. She wore a long black dress and took her place in the witness stand, which consisted of a chair atop a makeshift platform with a sheet on it. She was favoring her right torso. She winced as she took her place.
Raise your right hand,
Melson said. Maggie followed the direction as she stared into Lonn's eyes. Lonn thought they were cold and calculating, but they also had a playful aspect. She seemed to be enjoying this.
Do you swear to honor the criminal code oath and to tell the truth?
I do, Maggie said.
Are you ready, counselor?
Melson asked.
Oh, yes, Your Honor,
Johnny said. Johnny got up and surveyed the room, eventually making his way to the witness stand where Maggie was patiently waiting.
For the record, what is your job?
Johnny asked.
I process suspects that are brought to us by bounty hunters. I interview them and try to figure out if they are lying. If they are detained for further questioning,
Maggie replied.
When did you first meet the suspect? Selena and Big Papa found the suspect trespassing. He was brought to us for questioning. He said his name was Robbie Cannon of the Golden Triad. He was brought to the Archduke for additional vetting, Maggie said. Has the suspect shown any signs of aggression? Yes. I found the suspect out of his cell. When I asked him to go back to his cell, he became violent and started repeatedly beating me, Maggie said.
Johnny looked Maggie over.
You look fine to me. Do you have evidence of this violence?
Maggie opened a folder that contained several photographs. Each photo showed Maggie with several bruises on her face, neck, and body.
I'm entering this into evidence as Exhibit A, Johnny said as he gave Melson the photos. Melson reviewed the photos and then handed them to the uniformed man. I will allow it, Melson said. No further questions, Johnny said. Johnny went back to his desk and reviewed the notes for a moment. I call my next witness, Devon, to the stand, Johnny said. Devon entered the room. He was dressed in prison orange, and from the looks of it, he had been beaten. He stumbled and then regained his balance as he entered the witness stand. Lonn noticed that he was wearing a collar. Describe your relationship with the suspect, Johnny asked.
We're partners. We work for the Milford Police, Devon said. Exaggerated gasps and cries could be heard throughout the mock courtroom.
What? I've never met him until now,
Lonn said. Melson slapped his gavel on the desk. You will remain silent until called. Are we clear, Robbie? This is a sham, Lonn thought. Let the record show that the suspect has a known accomplice, Melson said.
What was your plan?
To make as many arrests as possible, Devon said.
You already have been convicted by this court for murdering a child. Was that one of your goals?
Collateral damage was not our priority. Arrests were, Devon said. Devon sounds drugged. What has Johnny done to him? Lonn thought.
No further questions, Johnny said.
As Devon exited the witness stand, the woman that Devon had injured in the concussion blast stood up and pointed at him.
You took my boy. Now die!
Devon's head exploded. Blood and bones sprayed on Melson and the mock jury. The adjacent walls, floor, furniture, and even the ceiling were glistening with goo. Several screams emitted from the crowd. Above the uproar, Lonn heard a loud cackle of a woman's voice. He followed the cackling until he saw Maggie. She held something that resembled an old-fashioned remote control. Johnny and several others joined in the laughter. Melson hit his gavel repeatedly on his desk. No one made a move to restrain Maggie. The room erupted into chaos. The people unlucky enough to have been sprayed by Devon's exploding head jumped up and started wiping off the mess with their hands, shirts, or anything else they could use to rid themselves of the gore. The rest of the people in the room attempted to flee. This is madness, Lonn thought. Order! I shall have order in this courtroom. We shall take a 20-minute break. Now someone clean up this mess, Melson said. Nobody seemed to be listening to Melson or paying any attention to Lonn, who was already trying to get lost in the crowd. We need a boat, helicopter, or raft to get to the island. Technically, we don't need to even step foot on the island. We just need to get close enough to the island to scan, and with any luck, command and control, Nigel said. Even if we can rent a boat, do you even know how to drive one? Milo asked. No, but I think I know someone who does. Let me check with Andy. She keeps most of the business records for our clients. Your daughter? Can she be trusted? She's a different person now. She's out of that phase, I think, Nigel said. I hope you know what you're doing, Nige. She's been doing a good job at the office. She has too much of her mother in her, but is solid. Nigel tapped his visor to activate the heads-up display while driving. Although autonomous vehicle technology has been mandatory in all new vehicles manufactured since 2025, Nigel distrusted them. He didn't want any artificial intelligence to control his destiny. Once was enough. He put his 2024 electric vehicle in motion and tapped his visor. Mirai, call Andy. Yes, Mr. Watson, a female voice responded. Hey, Dad, Andy said. Andy, can you search for any clients that run a boat business? Nigel said. Yeah, but that seems kind of random. Why do you need a boat? Going somewhere? She asked, chuckling. Well, sort of. Really? Can I come? No, it's for another client. Oh. Well, if you want to help, I could use someone manning mission control. Mainly reporting on any security scanning anomalies in real time, Nigel said.
Really? I would love to help with that. You are always telling me that I need more practical experience anyway.
That's my girl. See you shortly. I will give you more details when I'm back to the office.
You mean now?
Yes, well, at 4:30, still within business hours, Nigel said.
Well, I was going to meet Bryson after work, but I can push him off for a couple of hours.
Okay, let's regroup at the office. About 30 minutes later, Nigel pulled up to the WSS World Headquarters. The sun was beginning to set. Glad the clocks are moving forward soon, Nigel thought. Nigel and Milo entered the offices. Andy had a list of clients that had boats spread across the desk.
Uncle Milo, Andy said. She gave him a hug. Are you working with Dad again?
Yes, I'm helping him on his next assignment, Milo said.
Which client is that anyway? Andy asked.
Milford Police, Nigel said.
Oh, they called earlier. I didn't care for that Webb guy.
Neither did I, Nigel said.
I thought I could save us some time by organizing the files. I even called 2 of the clients. We have 3 clients with boats, but 2 are not available on short notice, Andy said.
What about the 3rd?
I'll let you decide if you want to call them, Andy said as she gave Nigel the file.
The client was Goose Tours Limited. They specialized in land and sea tours around Milford Harbor.
Oh, great. The Gooseboat people.
That's not conspicuous at all, Nigel said sarcastically. Milo chuckled.
Well, since this is the only option we have, let's give him a call.
Nigel looked up the number via his Maps app. He dialed the first number that came up. Hello, is this Stu?
No, this is Captain Mac. Stu is finishing a tour. Can I help you mateys with something?
Well, yeah. Do you do private tours? Nigel asked.
We do, but we are booked through June.
Any chance of getting us a vessel tonight? Silence. Captain Mac, are you still there?
That is something for Stu to decide. I see him coming up from the dock. Can you hold?
Sure. Tell him that Nigel Watson is holding. Nigel waited for a long time on hold.
Hey, Nigel. I hear you need a private boat tour tonight. It's a little last minute, but I might be able to arrange something. But it will cost you, Stu said.
Yeah, about that. I was wondering if we could work out some kind of trade.
The security assessment you did for us was top-notch. You found some vulnerabilities that we were unaware of. But we have no need for another compliance check for at least another year, Stu said.
Well, as you are probably aware, the Near-Eyed botnet has been active recently, and it is particularly dangerous because it targets payroll and accounting software that you have installed, Nigel said.
Well, if that's the case, I'll have my IT guy get a software patch from the vendor.
Your software vendor has yet to acknowledge the validity of the attack vector from the security researcher that found it. Your systems are wide open for attack.
I think you took the bait, Nigel thought.
With spring coming, boating season is upon us, and I can't afford to be offline. I think we can work out a trade.
Excellent. I will be right over then. Lonn did his best to keep his head down during the chaos. He was herded out of the room into a wide hallway. He followed the direction that the crowd was headed until the hallway ended with one passage leading to a stairwell. This looks familiar, he thought. The crowd followed the hallway, which led to a large courtyard with buildings on each side, and he noticed passageways leading from the courtyard. The morning air felt brisk, and a light breeze flowed over him. And for the first time since this investigative nightmare had started, he felt hopeful. Most of the crowd was gathering in the center of the courtyard. Instead of joining them, he decided to take a detour. He entered one of the side passages, and the sound of the ocean was even louder now. A gathering of seagulls was almost deafening once he reached the end of the passageway. The passage opened into a deck made of cement. It reminded him of a landing pad for a helicopter. Beyond the deck, he could see the spray of large waves crashing into the side of the structure. Lonn had no idea where he was, although it was a clear day. He thought he could see dark clouds on the horizon. Just to the right of the clouds, he could see a city in the distance, and he thought he recognized it. That's Milford. They must have brought me to Thieves' Island when I was unconscious. Lonn scouted the immediate area. A path led down to a boat dock. Although no boats were currently docked, he noticed signs of recent activity. A boathouse, sized just enough to fit one small boat, was visible. Lonn decided to take a closer look. Careful to avoid being seen, he made his way to the boathouse. It was locked. He started looking for a key or another way in. Perhaps I could try one of the windows. A loud bang took him out of these thoughts. He ducked behind the boathouse. He heard the familiar high-pitched sound of a sonic blaster. He had only a few seconds before it would be ready again. These barrels should provide some cover, Lonn thought as he tried to conceal himself.
"Come out, pig. I saw you come down here,"
the voice said. Lonn thought he recognized the voice. It was Johnny.
"Come out, and I won't shoot you,"
Johnny said. A wooden box just next to Lonn's head exploded. Fishing lures, tackle, and other debris rained down on him, some of which pierced his skin. Johnny made his way to the dock. His blaster was not the handheld variety. It resembled a rifle and required two hands to wield properly. It looked a little awkward in Johnny's hands. Probably why I'm not dead yet, Lonn thought before taking a nosedive into the cold water. His muscles contracted, and it was hard to swim. He felt like he was swimming in a pool full of ice. Lonn immediately resurfaced and screamed in frustration.
"Bad move, my friend. The water surrounding the island is bone-chilling, cold enough to freeze you quickly. You won't last long. Now come out before hypothermia sets in,"
Johnny said. Although the water was cold, Lonn's lifeguard training kicked in, and he figured he had at least 30 minutes before any permanent damage would occur. Johnny dropped his weapon to the deck and raised his hands.
"See, I don't want to harm ya. I want to talk, not fight. How about you come out of the freezing water so we can have a chat?"
Johnny said. Lonn took a deep breath and dove into the depths. The sun lit the water sufficiently to properly see underwater. He could see the boathouse, and he swam underneath it. There was about a foot of space between the water and the floor of the building. He looked for an entry point. He could hear Johnny cursing as he looked for him. A few minutes later, he noticed an outline. Lonn thought it was a hatch. He pressed around the outline of the hatch and felt it give a little. The problem was he didn't have enough leverage to properly open it. He repeatedly tried propelling himself up enough to open it. He thought he could hear Johnny trying the door to the boathouse. Apparently, he didn't have a key either. He was about to give up on getting the hatch open when he felt it budge. Another push and it opened. He heard some sounds as if something had fallen from the hatch during his efforts. He pulled himself up into the boathouse. He looked for a blanket or something to warm his frigid skin. As he searched, he could see Johnny heading back up the path. Is he giving up? Lonn continued to look for something he could use to get himself out of the situation, and then he saw something that gave him hope. Lonn practically leaped at the radio. It was a handheld VHF radio. Lonn switched it on and started making adjustments to the frequency setting until he could hear something. He heard nothing but static. Further examination revealed a distress band open. He turned that setting on and started broadcasting. "On an unknown island off the coast of Milford. Please respond," Lonn said repeatedly. Occasionally, he thought he could hear a response, but it was only static. Then he noticed a large crack in the screen, but it was operational and the low battery indicator was on. He turned off the radio to conserve power. He added finding a charger for the radio to his ever-growing list of necessities. Chapter 6. Nigel and Milo made their way to the Goose Tours boat launch ramp near Milford Harbor. Stu and Captain Mac met them.
"Where's the rest of your party?"
Captain Mac asked.
It's just the two of us, Captain, Nigel said.
I thought you wanted a private tour.
Private, yes, but we don't need a tour of Milford. We are more interested in taking a couple of loops around Fisherman's Point.
That place has been abandoned for years. What could you possibly want there?
Our client, which is law enforcement, has hired us to investigate the island for possible signals being emitted from there in the late afternoon and early evening hours. That is why we need your services, Nigel said. Captain Mack looked skeptical, but finally let them aboard.
Do you have an area where we could set up our monitoring equipment?
Milo said.
There's a crew cabin below, but visibility is limited.
That will do. We will let you know if we need anything. And, Captain, we appreciate your discretion, Nigel said. Captain Mack nodded and then said,
We shove off in 10 minutes.
Nigel grunted his acknowledgement. He was too busy setting up for the tasks to come. Nigel called Andy, but got disconnected. He forgot how his cell phone coverage failed near the harbor. Damn, no cell signal, Nigel said.
I have signal, but it isn't from my cell phone,
Milo said as he held out a square box that resembled a large brick with an antenna. What is that? Nigel asked.
It's my VHF radio. When we talked about sailing, I threw it in my bag. It's more reliable for the open ocean, Milo said.
Nice, but how are we going to contact Andy with it?
This baby has a texting mode that will allow me to interface with certain cell towers. Let's try it out.
Milo sent a text message to Andy, and she replied a few minutes later. Via the radio text feature, Milo instructed Andy to download a VHF receiver app.
Make sure you download the one by M. Jones, Milo said.
A short time later, Andy texted back, and Milo gave Andy the frequency that they were using. A few minutes passed, and then the radio came to life. Dad, Uncle Milo, you guys there?
Andy, we're here. Do you copy?
Milo said.
Yes, I hear you. Where are you guys?
Look on the map of the VHF app. Do you see a red dot? Milo said.
Yeah. Is that where you guys are located?
Yes. You can monitor our location. I may ask you for positioning coordinates from time to time, Milo said.
That is so cool.
Milo hooked Nigel's computer to the VHF radio.
Now we can more accurately scan for those robots.
Nigel smiled. It was good to be working with his friend again. Captain Mack knocked on the cabin door.
Looks like you were right. I can see lights from a distance. We're about half a mile out from Fisherman's Point, Captain Mack said.
Can anyone from the island see us, or do we need to turn off the lights? Nigel asked.
Probably not, but as a precaution, I'll turn off all unnecessary lights. But there is something else you should know.
What's that?
I've been picking up a distress signal from the island.
Nigel gave Milo a knowing look. Interesting. Are you sure it's from the island? Nigel asked.
Positive. I was about to call it in to the Coast Guard.
Negative. You shouldn't do that. We really need to finish our work, Nigel said.
Unacceptable. It's my duty to respond to any distress call that comes across my radio, Captain Mack said.
This complicates things, Nigel thought.
Complete your scans, but I'm going to respond, Captain Mack said in an authoritative tone as he left.
Damn, this changes everything, Nige, Milo said.
Let's try to at least get our robot scans in, Nigel said. Working with Andy, Milo was able to pinpoint the location of the radio signal on the island. Nigel had a strange feeling about Andy. He knew she wanted to go out with her friends. He wanted to make sure that Andy was still at the office. He called using the VHF radio. Andy, this is Dad. Do you copy? It took a while, but Andy eventually responded.
Yeah, Dad, I hear ya.
There was some background noise. It sounded like a party. Where are you? I hope you were in the office, Nigel said.
Well, sort of. I have my mobile office,
Andy replied. Nigel felt his face flush. He slapped his hand on the table so hard it moved the computer.
Unacceptable. You agreed to work from the office. Dad, I agreed to help, not work from the office.
Milo shrugged. She has a point, Milo said.
Nigel cursed under his breath.
Okay, I assume you still have a way to track us?
Affirmative,
Andy said in an upbeat tone. Nigel always admired his daughter's ability to make the most out of any situation. Can you get a map of Fisherman's Point?
Already have it here on my tablet. What you need?
I need to know what is on the back side of the island. He gave her the coordinates.
Looks like a dock, Andy said.
Milo continued to scan for anything that could transmit a signal. He found hundreds of signals with varying ranges of strength. Found the robots. They're everywhere on the island, Nige.
Get any vulnerability scan data yet?
Some, but our bandwidth is not exactly stellar here, Milo said.
Just let me know when you have some usable data.
The VHF radio came to life.
Dad? Uncle Milo? You there?
Go ahead, Andy. We copy, Nigel said.
I set up taps on various communication channels like you taught me, and picked up some interesting chatter on the police band. Looks like they're planning a raid on Thieves' Island. Because there are not many islands off the Milford coast, I figured they might be talking about Fisherman's Point.
Good work, Andy. Continue to monitor that band. I need to know the second they mobilize. Give me what you have, Milo. We're out of time, Nigel said. 1 hour later.
The police have mobilized, Dad. I heard something about helicopters and boats and a couple of lost officers, Andy said.
Copy that, Nigel said. What are we going to do now, Nige? I have all the relevant scan data back. It appears that our suspected robots were manufactured by Blind Spot Interactive, Nigel said. The gaming company? Yeah, I was surprised to learn that too. Let's see if Andy has more information. Andy, you copy?
Yeah, Dad, sorry. I had to step out of the club to take the call. Getting too loud in there.
Nigel groaned.
The robots were manufactured in 2021. After a disappointing launch, the company abandoned the project. The unsold robots were sold to an auction to a private collector. I couldn't find any additional information on them, Andy said.
Thanks, Andy. I think we have everything we need. Thanks again for your help. Enjoy yourself tonight, Nigel said.
Thanks, Dad. Remember, my phone is on if you need me to come and kick some robot butt, she said, chuckling.
Nigel smiled. I think we're going to respond to that distress signal now, Nigel said. Nigel and Milo barged into Captain Mac's steering room. We've pinpointed the distress signal. Here are the coordinates, Nigel said. We should be there soon. Make yourself comfortable, Captain Mac said. Nigel and Milo returned to their cabin, and additional preparations were needed. I've finished uploading the exploit code to as many robots as we have bandwidth for, Nigel said. Should we be going at all if the police will be there? Milo asked. I have that covered. I'll tell Webb that we were following a lead on his behalf. He will take the credit, we will take the profit, and hopefully the police will take Vice's head. Everyone wins. The boat had almost come to a complete stop. The island was close enough to see the dock, and it was crowded. Can they see us? Nigel asked. Captain Mac raised his enhanced spyglass to survey the dock and the boathouse. All they need to do is turn around. There are at least 40, maybe 50 people in guard uniforms positioned behind 2 other people. We are about 200 yards from shore. I've cut our lights while we plan our next move, Captain Mac said. Let's see if we can reach the person who placed that call. As the sun set, Lonn turned his radio back on. He tried sending a distress signal. He was about to give up when he heard a response. This is the Fleeting Goose, responding to your call. Are you all right? Lonn jumped. He hadn't expected a response. I'm trapped on an island with criminals and need help, Lonn said. I didn't copy. Did you say criminals? Lonn couldn't get the Fleeting Goose back on the line. At least someone heard my pleas for help, Lonn thought. Lonn rechecked the window, half expecting to see Johnny. He had left what seemed like hours ago. The radio died, and Lonn couldn't get it working again.
After a thorough search, he found the charger and plugged it in, but it still wouldn't turn on. "Damn," Lonn said.
"This is your last chance, Robbie. Come out of there," a booming voice said.
It sounded like a bullhorn. Lonn looked outside. The sun was setting. Harsh shafts of light shot through the window. Johnny, Maggie, and a small army of guards were outside.
"You have a minute to respond, then we're coming in."
Breaking the door down would not help the situation. Lonn didn't like his chances. He decided to surrender. Just before opening the door and sealing his fate, Lonn noticed a red light on the radio that was previously unlit. Next to the low battery light, another light displayed under the words, "Message received." Lonn picked up the radio, flipped the on switch, and to his surprise it came alive in his hands.
"This is the Fleeting Goose. For the person who left the distress call, please respond. Over."
Lonn grabbed the radio with such enthusiasm he nearly flung it across the room. "This is the person who left the distress. Over."
"What's your situation? Over."
"Dire. I'm surrounded by a group of criminals who are threatening to invade. Over."
"Hang tough. Help is on the way. Over." "I just told a man surrounded by hostiles that help is on the way. Is that the truth?" Captain Mack said hesitantly.
"Technically, yes, or it will be once we perform our magic," Nigel said. Captain Mack gave Nigel a confusing look. "Come on, Milo. We have some robots to hack," Nigel said. Milo didn't move. He was surveying the dock with the spyglass.
"Margaret is alive, and she's next to Johnny Vice," Milo hissed.
Nigel had never seen his friend this upset, even more than after his wife's murder. "Look, I'm sure there's an explanation for this. Keep a cool head, and we can sort all of this out, okay, man?" Nigel said in a reassuring tone. Milo seemed to snap out of it. He looked like he'd just woken up from a dream. "You all right, buddy?" Nigel said.
"Yeah, let's kick Johnny Vice's ass."
"Captain, upon my command, I want you to start the boat, turn on your floodlights, and then floor the boat. There is a man's life that needs saving," Nigel said. Captain Mack nodded in agreement. Nigel opened his laptop, and a few keystrokes later, the guards were his to control. "Now, Captain."
"Your time is up, Mr. Cannon,"
Johnny screamed into the bullhorn. Maggie readied the shocker. She had a malevolent grin on her face.
"Guards, attack!"
The guards started marching toward the boathouse. 2 of them started pounding on the door, while several others attempted to find other access points. The door was metal and would not easily budge, so one of the guards started ripping layers of sheet metal off the door. About a minute into the destruction, the guards stopped.
"Bloody hell. What happened?"
Johnny said. He went up to one of the guards and slapped it on the head. The guard came alive and punched Johnny square in the chest. Johnny collapsed, then tried to catch his breath. Maggie tried helping Johnny, pulling him up and hissing at the guards. She shot any guard that came too close with the shocker, and she managed to bring 3 or 4 down before they grabbed her. Lonn couldn't believe his eyes. The guards were turning on Johnny and Maggie. He had no idea why they had turned on them. Just as he was contemplating this, a bright light shone through the boathouse. He could barely see a boat behind the bright spotlight. It was Webb. The police had finally found them. As soon as the boat reached the dock, Lonn left the boathouse. He passed Johnny and Maggie, who were in restraints and surrounded by guards.
"Get off of me, you twat!"
Maggie shouted as Lonn passed and headed toward the boat. "I'm glad to see you," Lonn trailed off. "Who are you guys?"
"We are the crew of the Fleeting Goose, and I believe we are here to rescue you," Captain Mack said cheerily.
"It is good to see you, Captain," Lonn said.
"Well, thank these gentlemen. Without them, your rescue would not have been possible."
Lonn gave both Nigel and Milo a hearty handshake. He has a steel grip, Nigel thought. Glad that you're okay, Lieutenant, Nigel said. Milo left the boat and headed straight to Maggie. Margaret? Maggie looked up at Milo, tears in her eyes. Dad? Milo grabbed Maggie and gave her a hug. I thought you were dead, Milo said. Sirens and helicopters were closing in on the island. Come with me. Our boat is ready, Milo said.
Help me, love,
Johnny said in a weak voice.
You took me away from my dad when I was just a girl,
Maggie said as she kicked Johnny. Milo and Maggie started toward the boat, and the sirens were much closer now. Something grabbed Milo by the shoulder. It was a large, burly guard who squeezed Milo's shoulders so hard that something cracked. Milo screamed. What's wrong? Captain Mack asked. Damn, the police must be using a signal jammer. It's interfering with my command and control server. I'm losing control of the robots, Nigel said. What? That is an unusual tactic. I wonder if the police suspect the robots, Milo said. Then we fight, Lonn said. The police were still too far away to help, so Nigel rummaged through his bag and found what he was looking for, a large metal USB drive. What's that? Lonn asked. Our secret weapon. I need you to restrain one of the guards long enough for me to plug this in. It's our only chance, Nigel said. Lonn nodded. Nigel and Lonn headed for the nearest guard, who was in the process of hurting Milo. Failure to comply will result in immediate disciplinary action, one of the guards said.
Fuck compliance,
Maggie screamed as she shoved a shocker into the back of the guard's neck. Unfortunately, the guard fell the wrong way, nearly crushing Milo. Maggie helped her father toward the boat, while Nigel and Lonn were in the process of restraining a guard. Nigel was barely able to plug the USB to the guard's maintenance port behind its helmet, which made getting to it difficult. The guard recognized Nigel. Hail, Master. What shall be your bidding? Defend the humans known as Nigel, Milo, Lonn, Maggie, and Captain Mack, Nigel said. Affirmative, Commander, the guard said as it charged toward another robot. How does it know who to protect? Lonn asked. I pre-programmed it with our profiles. Margaret was added in last minute, so I hope the programming took, Nigel said.
It's you,
Maggie screamed. Lonn turned toward Maggie, hands up. Maggie hissed, and then tried to claw Lonn. Stop it, Milo said.
That bastard hit me.
Margaret, we will need to sort this out later, when we're not under attack. After a moment, Maggie went back to helping Milo to the boat. Lonn took that as a sign to continue helping Nigel. Nigel was able to reprogram enough robots to slow the onslaught of the robot army. Other criminals joined in the fight. Lonn heard the familiar swooshing sound of the teleporter. 2 criminals appeared beside Lonn and Nigel. One of them grabbed Lonn by the throat. Another punched Nigel in the face. Nigel took out his phone, uttered something, and then within seconds, several guards were on top of the criminals, beating them until they attempted to flee. One of the criminals was knocked unconscious. Lonn took the opportunity to commandeer the teleporter. He looked up to see Johnny point in their general direction. More guards and criminals started running down the ramp toward the dock. We need to make a break for it, Lonn said. Nigel nodded. How do we get through that? Nigel pointed at the mayhem between them and the boat. Lonn held up the teleporter. With these. Lonn showed Nigel a teleporter he'd lifted off one of the criminals. After a quick demonstration, Lonn handed the teleporter to Nigel, who put it on his left wrist. Both Lonn and Nigel twisted the wristband, and they disappeared from the battlefield. Now face the direction you want to travel in, then tap the emerald, Lonn said. Nigel did as Lonn described. He ended up slamming into a hostile guard. Lonn saw what was happening and grabbed Nigel before the guard could land a punch. Lonn grabbed the guard, and Nigel was able to insert the USB drive and convert it. After giving the guard its orders, Nigel and Lonn made it to the boat.
Are we all aboard?
Captain Mack asked. Yes, let's get out of here, Lonn said. Captain Mack carefully backed the boat from the dock. Criminals and robots were still participating in the most unusual battle Lonn had ever seen. Lonn checked on Milo, who was bleeding in several places and moaning in pain. Maggie stood up as Lonn approached. Truce, Lonn said. Maggie looked at him, stone-faced.
Until my dad gets to a hospital, this is not over, Robbie,
Maggie said as she dug her finger into Lonn's chest. Lonn nodded. When the Fleeting Goose was about 300 yards from the island, they were intercepted by a police boat. We need to search the vessel, an officer said to Captain Mack. A few minutes later, the officer cleared them. The officer looked around. There were pictures of people next to a man dressed in a goose suit, and then asked, What kind of boat is this, anyway? Well, it's the Fleeting Goose, the finest tour boat in the Milford area, Captain Mack said proudly. Sarah Peters landed at Eastward International Airport, near Newport. A well-dressed man met her at the baggage claim. He held a sign with her name on it. Mrs. Peters? Yes, Sarah said. Captain Sandoval of the Milford Police asked me to pick you up, the man said. He helped Sarah load the bags into the limousine that was waiting at the curb. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. The man handed Sarah a card that looked like a triangle with a series of concentric circles in the center of it. The gold lettering on the card read, Tri-City Limousine Service, Mr. Chen, President. Will you take me to my husband now? Sarah asked. Yes, he will be so surprised, Chen said. End. This has been Mark of the Triad, Cyber Hunter Chronicles, Book 1. Written by D.B. Gooden, narrated by Bruce Peters. Copyright 2020 by D.B. Gooden. Production copyright by D.B. Gooden.